Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio and a fine libations Friday to you and yours. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Jeff. That's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you go to listen live via the streaming free always. Don't miss anything, but hey, if you do, all 3 hours going to be posted both on iTunes and in our own audio vault upon the conclusion of the program. That's good stuff. It's brought to you with limited commercial interruption. Thanks to our great sponsor, CarltonDean.com. Together with SVN, they have the resources, the knowledge, and the means to help everybody really throughout the whole Southeast region. So if you want to reach out and learn more about making money in commercial real estate, go to CarltonDean.com. Email the show if you want. It's jcs@979espnradio.com. Find me on Twitter at jcameronshow. WTSM app for mobile devices works just fine. And we're on YouTube, ESPN Tallahassee. It's a loosey-goosey edition of the program. A lot of fun. Hey, by the way, on the show today, I look forward to it. In the 5 o'clock hour, we'll be joined by Lee DeKemper, JoeBucksFan.com, of course, the website. It's that time again, kids. Football is upon us. Camps are underway. In fact, Tampa Bay Buccaneers already completing a couple days in camp, and Joe's going to come on and join us, and we'll talk about the makeup of that team. Offensive line, obviously, the additions now, too, in the receiving core of a rookie like Chris Godwin and a veteran burner like Deshaun Jackson, obviously a tight end, O.J. Howard. So more weapons for Jameis Winston and more in the way of expectations for him and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year. That's a good thing. So Lee will join us in the 5 o'clock hour. Really look forward to it.
Do you expect the playoffs this year?
Well, here's what I expect. I expect 10 wins.
Okay.
Well, they won 9 a year ago. They're a better football team than they were a year ago, and their schedule's easier than it was a year ago on paper. So I'd say, yeah, I think they could win 10 games, and if that's good enough to get you to the playoffs, not always, but I would think most years certainly it is, then, yeah, I think we're ready to take that step. Ooh. It makes you nervous, though, right? When that happens, you kind of, it's the first time we've gone into a season as a Bucs fan in a long time with what I think would be realistic expectations of maybe making a playoff. Not being an elite team, a great team, not a team that you would pick to run through those playoffs and get to the Super Bowl, but just a team to make a playoff berth. I think that's somewhat realistic, maybe very realistic. I think they're going to be pretty good.
Yeah, it's going on nearly 10 years now. That was the Chucky team that played Eli Manning and the Giants in round one. I think that was 2008. I often forget that year.
I do, too, because it made no sense that happened.
Well, and that game was super low scoring, and we had a couple opportunities, but didn't cash in on them. The one I think about more often is the year we ended up playing Washington in the first round and found a way to lose that game. That was the game where Michael Pittman, it was cut to on camera, was beating the living hell out of Sean Taylor, and people said, well, he's going to get thrown out. And then they show the replay, and Sean Taylor actually spit into Michael Pittman's helmet face mask. And they said, oh, well, he won't get thrown out. Sean Taylor's going to get thrown out of this game.
Yeah, and that was, I forgot about that. Yeah, well, the old spitting. I remember somebody spit on my friend William Floyd when he was in the NFL, and the cameras caught him responding to being spit on. And I remember laughing because, it's universally understood. You can't spit. You spit, it's go time. There's no circumstance by which a man spits on another man and that man does not retaliate in a way that is obviously ready to fight, right? I mean, it just can't happen. You can do a lot of other things. Spitting's not one of them.
Swift and merciless is the retaliation. Yes.
Has to be. It's just, and there is no other way. There is no time. I will never tell my kid to walk away. If my kid gets spit on, I'm going to say, beat the hell out of that kid.
Now, what if the other party is like crazy Richie Incognito and he's pacing around the pool table?
And you could die?
Yeah.
No, run. No, don't be there. Is the advice I'd give him there. Don't be there.
Richie Incognito and
just
the Pouncey twins walk into a bar.
Time to ride. I don't need to be at that bar.
Bar patron says, check please. End of story.
Without question, yeah. There are times that you would never have to worry about it coming to that because you're already out the damn door. As soon as certain people walk into a room whose reputation precede them as being troublemakers, for lack of a better term, yeah, I'm riding, man. I got no time for that. That's nuts. And what are you going to do to Richie Incognito?
Exactly. That's if he spits in your face. Then,
Yes, you don't have to fight him, son, and you're not going to win. So then you will have been spit on and had the hell beaten out of you.
Yeah.
Can't have that. That's a double whammy.
The only play is to kick him in the nuts and sprint.
Yeah, and because we already have way too much gun violence in this country, I can't say or grab a piece because that equals the playing field.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a game changer.
That
there.
would.
That changes things then.
You'd probably need an automatic, though. God knows what that guy's on.
So NFL news already. For example, in addition to camps being underway and reason to be excited, this is, again, the end of the most terrible slow time in sports. It's the beginning of the great time in sports with the return of football. Camp gets underway next week for Florida State. Oh, forget about it. Next week. And already news out of NFL camps, for example, Donald is a no-show with the Rams. He said, I'm not coming to camp. I want some more damn money. And guess what? My guess is the Rams are going to pay him more damn money because he's really, really good.
Wait a minute. So that's an actual NFL news and note. That's a real thing.
Aaron Donald missed training camp, did not report by the deadline, and basically has said, I ain't coming in.
Hello, my friend, hello.
The Rams described that situation as being complicated. It's delicate. No, it's not. He's paid like a kind of lower level productive defensive tackle when you can make a case he is the best defensive tackle. And he doesn't feel like waiting around so that he can become a free agent. He wants his money, and he wants it now. And when you outplay the contract that you're given, the only play for a player in that league, an employee of that league, is to withhold your services. That's all you have. There is no other leverage. And because owners routinely cut guys long before their contract's up and cause them to miss out on pay on the back end, especially if a player is injured, I don't worry and get mad at players who decide to use this tack to make more money. Freeman is in a position to do the same thing in Atlanta, where he's outplayed the contract of his rookie season. I get it, but that business world is not the same as the normal business world, and that's the only way you can leverage more money when you've earned it through the course of 2 seasons, which he has.
All it does is remind me of how disgraceful that loss was to the Rams last year for the Bucs, the game that was delayed by lightning, and they really found a way to lose that game.
Pitiful. That's a bad a loss as you could have, and they gave up all of those points to that sorry team.
Yeah,
that would have been 10 wins, Tom.
That would have been 10 wins, and that was if you're not going to win that game, you might as well high-low Donald for the work he did on Jameis that Thursday night the year prior. Might want to stand up for your quarterback and maybe fall at somebody's knees there.
Yeah.
Then maybe he's not talking about a new contract, Jeff. Maybe he's talking about rehab and being ready by weekend.
You know what's great about the start of the NFL season and the beginning of college football? It's our remembrances, right? These moments where we go back and think about what's occurred to our teams, our players, our city, our university, and what we've also done, right? And so depending on which side of the fence you're on with that one, it'll elicit really kind of a slow burn, which is followed up by reprehensible comments about the kinds of injuries you'd like to see those players incur. It's remarkable. It brings out the best and worst in all of us.
Oh, it sure does. And, the funny thing is, as we're heading towards Florida State season, Alabama is the focus. It's the focal point because it's the next game, and it's a really big game. But I've got 3 or 4 different foci, if you will. And that's you got Miami in week 3 and NC State. That's a huge month. You need to go 2-1 at minimum, but 4-0 would be really, really nice. Or I should say 3-1 because I'm counting the win in week 2.
Sure.
And then it's the Louisville game. That's the other focus, man. I mean, damn it, bloodlust. Every time I talk about anger as a fan, I think about Louisville. It's time. We got to go get them, put them back in their hole where they belong. Let Lamar go to the pros, and then let that program wallow with its runoffs from the SEC.
Well, won't that be a fun conversation about Lamar Jackson, who is going to have an opportunity to play in the National Football League? Somebody will give him that chance without question. He will be one of the most productive players, or he's on pace to be anyhow now, in the history of college football at that position. And yet I can't think of a single reason a team should sign him. I mean, it's remarkable, right?
Kick returns.
It really does tell you and illustrate for you the vast difference between being a great, all-time great college quarterback and being a suitable fit to play the same position at the next level. It's amazing, right? You can find kids who had average college careers to subpar, maybe unproductive college careers, leading their team to nothing of any consequence whatsoever, who are great prospects at the position in the NFL. People can find guys like that, watching film, saying that guy translates at the highest level. He's going to be a great pro. And then you can find guys that win Heisman trophies, lead their teams to a national title, produce numbers that are prodigious, and you can go, he's got no shot to be any good whatsoever in the NFL. That is remarkable. And again, the stark contrast between the two levels of football.
Yeah, for every Tom Brady who was drafted in the 7th round,
6th round, I think it was.
6th round, there's Vince Young, and I can recall that Tennessee Titans fan shirt that was convinced yet with Vince in all capital letters.
Yeah.
And, they were defiant, saying, oh, no, you wait and see. Tennessee Titans football is about to be the premier in the old National Football
But you have
League.
to know more than 7 plays. And it really
and one
was
read per play,
one read per play, 7 plays. That was about the extent of what Vince was doing. It's just like Tim Tebow, man. I mean, he was as prolific as you'll ever find, an awesome college quarterback. There's no getting around that. He was an awesome college quarterback. It drove me nuts. I'd never seen a man, in essence, play fullback from the quarterback position and do so with not just success levels that are hard to fathom, but transcendent. He would win games doing that. He was playing against grown-ass men that want to go on to the league in the NFL and play on Sundays in the trenches and run them over. It was nuts. And yet, I was never so sure that he had no chance to be any good at all in the NFL as I was when he was announced on draft night to Denver. I can still remember that.
Oh, yeah, me too. That was a hell of a night. He could have been Mike Allstott, though. Even after it failed, he could have been Mike Allstott.
I don't know. No. I never buy into this idea that a guy plays a position his whole life and then it doesn't work out, so you say, well, just make him a tight end or just make him a fullback. Maybe he could have. Maybe. It has been done before. There are players who make the switch, but I don't think it's incredibly easy. I think it can be very, very difficult. There's a difference in the way that you block and go about protecting the passer as a fullback as opposed to being the runner himself at quarterback. And there's a technique to playing that. There's a technique to being a tight end and running routes and catching the football in traffic and doing all the things they would have asked him to do. So many people just assumed he would have been able to do that. And I don't know if he would have or not, but I certainly never assumed that it would be that easy.
I think he would have been. I mean, Mike Allstott wasn't always lead blocking. He was more of a bruiser.
He was always like a tailback.
He was a tailback, and he got voted every year as a fullback, much to the chagrin of Corey Schlesinger and
other good fullbacks.
Yeah,
true fullbacks.
And the other, is NFC South fullback. I'm forgetting Minnesota and Detroit had the two of them. But I mean, T. Peasy is a receiver. T. Peasy got it done. He's putting up decent numbers.
Well, I said there are exceptions. The level of athleticism that Terrell Pryor showed compared to him is exceptionally.
I hear you. I'm talking about different. A guy. Hey, it's 1st and goal from the 3. Let's turn around. Let's hand it off to Tim Tebow. There was a use for that. He just didn't want to. Man, pride got the best of him. He decided he wanted to try to play baseball
before
instead.
The fall.
Yeah,
nicely done. Jeff Cameron Show 97.9 ESPN Radio.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You put your mower through a lot. All that back and forth can add up to thousands of miles. That's like mowing cross country. Gravely commercial mowers are built for all-day performance, helping you get the job done mile after mile. Gravely, built to mow the distance.
Get your Gravely motor only at TNT Supercenter, your one-stop shop for work or play. 14585 Highway 19 South, Thomasville, Georgia. TNTSupercenter.com.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck, always enough. I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
I'm talking tough.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Improvements you have to make, and Parker Brothers Roofing understands. We now offer financing for 0% over 60 months. Yes, that's 5 years. Call us today for 5 years interest-free financing on that new roof. 656-8112. That's 656-8112, or go to parkerbrothersroofing.net.
Parker Brothers Roofing, professional every time. Stay safe and dry inside.
License number CCC 049350.
The City of Tallahassee Utilities, America's #1 public utility, says it's summertime, and summertime is the time to go green and save energy. Here are a few simple things you can do right now that will save energy while you try to keep out of the summer heat. First thing, get your air conditioner checked out and change your air filters. You'll be pleasantly surprised at how much energy and money you can save. Going away from home on vacation? Why not purchase a programmable thermostat to regulate your air conditioner while you're not at home? Talk about an investment that'll pay energy savings dividends. Make an appointment right away for a free energy audit from the City of Tallahassee Utilities. You never know how much energy you can save until you do it. The City of Tallahassee is offering insulation grants. Why not apply for one? Did you know that the City of Tallahassee offers loans to help with the purchase of solar water heaters? Visit talgov.com/YOU for information on loans and rebates. So stay cool, go green, and save energy all summer long. A message from the City of Tallahassee Utilities, America's #1 public utility.
Brent, this month's topic is classic song lyrics. You ready?
Ready as I'll ever be.
Here's a lyric. There's nothing you can do that can't be done. There's nothing you can sing that can't be sung.
It's All You Need Is Love by the Beatles.
Just like North Florida and South Georgia love their Mahindra tractors, right, Brent?
Absolutely right. When TNT Supercenter put the 40 horsepower Mahindra 4540 tractor on sale last month for $11,995, our customers couldn't get enough. So we're doing it again this month.
Tell me about your Beat the Heat special.
The Mahindra 2538 cab tractor with a loader has an air-conditioned cab plus tons of extra features like four-wheel drive, free-range, hydrostatic transmission, power steering with a tilt wheel, a 7-year limited warranty. And did I mention air conditioning?
You did, but Brent, how much?
Just $297 a month with zero down with approved credit.
No wonder Mahindra is the best-selling tractor in the world. TNT Supercenter is really on a mission.
TNT Supercenter and Mahindra tractors on a mission to help everybody lift more, push more, and pull more.
TNT Supercenter, US 19 South, next to Dairy Queen in Thomasville, and online at TNTSupercenter.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be, well, like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter is different. It doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them. With its powerful technology, ZipRecruiter distributes your job everywhere it needs to be to find the right candidates. In fact, over 80% of jobs on ZipRecruiter get a qualified candidate in just one day. So, while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, only ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
Used by businesses of all sizes, ZipRecruiter offers the most qualified job candidates with immediate results. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter free. That's right, free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free for your free trial. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
This is the Jeff Cameron Show. Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Let this be a lesson to the young, up-and-coming sports talk show hosts, or talk show hosts at all. Try not to consume a handful of almonds peppered with habanero moments before you come back on the air.
Really?
It was delicious, but it got me. No, just a little burn. A little slow burn.
With the jalapenos?
Yeah, I think there were jalapenos or habanero pepper or something like that. Yeah, they had a little something to them.
Man, so I was having some soup the other night, and in the soup was a whole jalapeno slice with the seeds and everything.
Yeah, good stuff.
And it was surrounded by noodles, and so I didn't see it. And I crunched down, and I got all the seeds.
Gotcha.
Oh, they opened up at the same time.
Ah!
Oh, man. I was coughing for about, a good 45 seconds. Yeah. A little spicy.
I liked it.
Oh, I liked it. I wasn't prepared for it all of a sudden. What is that crunch? Must be a chive. Oh, no, that's not a chive.
Take a look at, and I'll mention this later in the show, but just a quick note here. Bill Connolly's college football preview for Florida State came out a couple days ago. Again, we'll expound a little bit more on that later in the program. I do think that it is right to note that the defense was dynamic over the second half of the season, writes Bill Connolly. Returns almost everybody, plus all-world safety Derwin James, now healthy. Yikes. So that's the thought from Bill Connolly, right? And I don't know if that's the thought from Florida State fans. The biggest question mark that he poses is quarterback DeAndre Francois ready to live in a Dalvin Cookless universe?
Good question from a national writer.
Cook was the ultimate security blanket. Francois, without him and last year's top 3 wideouts also exiting, make for an interesting debate. Biggest game, Alabama, September the 2nd. Although that's big, and yes, on a national scale, that is the biggest game or the most sought after for viewers. Not the most important game. The biggest game, sure, not the most important game.
It is slightly debatable in this sense. If you win that game and you don't win the ACC outright, it is a great poker chip to be an at-large team in that Final Four. But, I mean, we're not expecting anything other than winning the ACC this year. So that's why I would say it's not the biggest game. It's a great backup plan, though, if you can win that and have that card in your back pocket should you need it.
Notes that fans could be a little edgy because of a very difficult schedule and some skill core question marks. But, again, that would ignore some of the offensive line questions that we still have. Who knows, that offensive line could end up being very, very good. I mean, Landon Dickerson is a talent and is a kind of a road grader, a master. He's a tough, big, strong kid. If he's healthy, I like him to take a big step forward. Again, I think we feel pretty good about the right side. Questions about center in general continue to, they persist. And then at left tackle, it's not that you don't think Josh Ball can play. He's a big, strong kid himself. Looks much better than he did when he first got here. He's kind of transformed his body, but let's see if he can play.
Yeah, that's it's funny. You bring up the offensive line, and then all of a sudden I feel like the receivers are my number one concern.
But if I had brought up receiver, you'd have gone to offensive line.
It's a seesaw thing, yeah. But the interesting thing about that offense, if the offensive line can protect, and it does its job, it wins its fair share of battles.
Do your job.
Exactly right. It wins its fair share against those top 10 defensive lines it's going to see 3 times in the first 4 games. The receiver thing, it feels like you don't have a safety net. And I think that's the concern that, Florida State fans feel if they're not just going to be pie in the sky. But then again, you fall back on, but these dudes are so much more talented. I mean, Jimbo has had offenses here at Florida State when he first walked in the door, and it's Burt Reed, Taiwan Easterling, Lewis Givens, and Greg Carr. I mean, decent college football players, but he found a way to go right down the field with those guys at receiver. So if you have this much athleticism, this much potential, and then Jimbo has a quarterback who has a semblance of time, we should be able to get an awful lot out of those guys. I mean, really.
Yeah, whenever anybody asks me about problems, potential problems, pitfalls, things that would hold this team back from being great, we always come back to the same thing. It is the offensive line, and it is really all concerns revolve around the offense. Now, that is largely ignoring the awful way in which the season started a year ago defensively. But I really do think they'll get beyond that, and they'll play consistently well right from the jump on defense. The talent is there. The lesson has been learned. I do believe Jimbo probably decided to delve back into that side of the football as well to monitor that situation. Ideally a head coach can delegate certainly away from the things that he's not as versed in or have a background in, right? I mean, if you come into a league as or you begin your career as a quarterback and then later on you're a quarterback coach and an offensive coordinator. This is your area of expertise. And at some point when you become a head coach, while you still like to call plays and you still coach up the quarterbacks and that side of the football is your domain, you'd like to get to a place where you hire somebody that you trust enough to leave alone. That you could say to Jeremy Pruitt, go do what you need to do, man. I've got this over here. You do what you do.
Whole part whole.
Thank you, Jeremy. And that you could just let it go. But ultimately, a head coach, of course, is tasked with all of it. It's his program, and that system has to be running at peak efficiency, as I like to say. And when it's not, the buck stops with you. Even if that's not your side of the ball, the buck stops with you. And he's a perfectionist, and I'm sure it drove him nuts watching his quarterback A get killed. So much so that a year ago, he actually mentioned his offensive line by name as not holding up their end of the bargain. I believe that's the first time I've ever heard him do that. That is, in essence, rolling his dear friend Rick Trickett and saying publicly, you're not getting the job done this year, or at least currently. It doesn't mean that he wanted to fire him. It doesn't mean that they're behind the closed doors. They were at each other's throat. It does mean that he was fed up enough to say something about it in a way that he normally never would. That tells me that he probably got involved in that some more. And when his defense is a sieve and humiliating him and causing them to have to go above and beyond offensively to even have a chance to win games and not play in a way that is a little bit more comfortable and a pace more suited for Jimbo Fisher and his play calling style, I'm sure he decided, well, why don't we just check in a little bit more often about how these defensive meetings are going and the kinds of things that we're implementing on that side of the ball. And because he will do that, and because he has done that in the past where he had to basically be the coach of everything, it wore him ragged. He looked exhausted, but things got done. And I have a suspicion that, yeah, he wasn't going to sit idly by going into spring or into the offseason and just allow for things to kind of go on as they were with somebody else's head at the reins. I think he was going to be a big part of making sure the necessary improvements are made.
Find it interesting then that in this offseason and even in spring to a degree, even though he was hard, he didn't look that exhausted.
Oh, he looked healthy. He looked good. Maybe he's figured out a better way to do it.
Yeah.
Maybe he's found a more efficient way to do it. I also think that it coincides with an increased trust on his side of the ball. Having, a guy that you believe can call plays, having a guy that gets your philosophy, your mindset, your methodology, your understanding of the concepts, the offense as a whole, and being able to do that the way that Randy Sanders can. I do believe that he probably doesn't have to be as engaged. If we go back to that time where he was having to be all things to all people, there was nobody around him that he, in my opinion, it didn't appear that there were people around him that he could trust implicitly.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he now has some people he can trust implicitly, which would allow him, even on that side of the ball, well, in particular, Randy Sanders. So on that side of the ball, he'd be able to say, okay, Randy, listen, hold it down. I need to make sure what's going on over here is right, because God knows with the way we started last year, it wasn't. And I think he got fooled by that. I think certainly he didn't believe they were in that. No coach would let their team take the field in that state.
No, a state of disarray, there's no doubt. And he's also got a quarterback that we don't know what his ceiling is, and we don't know how consistently good he can be or great. But he's got a worker, and I think that does take also some pressure off of him and what he needs to oversee, micromanage. The 2015 season, clearly he did not feel that he had the answer quarterback. That's why he brought Golson in.
Right.
But then depending upon who you talk to, and it's funny, the further away you get from these things, the more you're apt to hear something that, actually happened and the true story, if you will. They had some dealings with Everett, too, that were a bit frustrating for Jimbo. So he was always, up against it when he was coaching his quarterbacks and knowing what his quarterbacks can handle, cannot handle. He had to coach games around a quarterback and feature Dalvin Cook and find a way around it. Last year, he's got a redshirt freshman, and so he's got a whole new host of problems. Then he's got the whole team crisis at the same time. But he's got a worker for a quarterback, I guess is my point on the offense. I think that's got to help him when it comes to spending a little bit more time in other facets. Maybe special teams could get a micromanager's look. because God knows we could use a little bit better field position this year. If you're going to be playing defensive football week in and week out, man, field position is going to matter a lot, and we could use those hidden 10 to 15 yards a game per possession.
Well, I spoke at length last month as we were slowly kind of getting geared up for football about it being an important season for Jimbo Fisher. And some people took that to mean that I was sliding him or his accomplishments or his, 77-17 or whatever he is in his time here. And incorrectly kind of implying that he would be on any sort of hot seat anytime soon. No. That's not what my intent was. I think that what we hope to be as a program is to be considered certainly as a top 2 program consistently, certainly to be there and competitive with and have opportunities to play in the playoff and win national championships at the same rate as an Ohio State or an Alabama. That's like ultimately the goal. And that's also how you get mentioned as a top in that elite category. He's considered a really good coach, but he's in the same category as a lot of other really good coaches. I think Jimbo's in that category. Obviously now Dabo Swinney's in that category, but it would be Dabo Swinney, Jimbo Fisher, Mark D'Antoni. Right? Did I say that right? No. Yes.
Yeah.
Michigan State. Yeah.
Yeah. Mark D'Antonio, maybe?
D'Antonio.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of a basketball coach, too.
Mike D'Antoni.
Mike D'Antoni. Yeah, that's what I was doing. But, yeah, you'd put him in that category. A few other guys that fit that mold, right, that are who year in and year out, well-respected, produce good, solid programs and 10-win seasons and all that. But to take the next big step, this would be an important year. That's all I was trying to say, because you've had back-to-back 3-loss seasons. And if you had a third, you start to kind of fall into a different category where people say, yeah, you're a good coach. They're not going to fire him anytime soon. And, he's better than what most people have. But he doesn't belong in the conversation of Urban Meyer and Nick Saban. But if he wins a national championship without a Jameis Winston, a second national title, he is immediately thrust into that conversation as an elite and the best 3 coaches in football.
Yeah, he'll be in the big 3, there's no doubt. But let's just say that we have the middling year, and we go 11-2 or 10-3, where either we win the ACC or we lose the ACC championship game, or we win the ACC and we're left out. We're the one without the chair in the musical chairs game, and we go to the Orange Bowl. What is that year defined as?
Well, okay, so that'd be a disappointment to some extent. Depends on who you lose to. But really quickly, what I was going to say, and I said all of the long-winded thing that I did say to say something else, which is that most people, when I brought all of that up, were like, what are you talking about? Jimbo's untouchable. And I wasn't saying it as if it was a referendum on all things Fisher. But where we are, I think, as a fan base is that if you have that kind of season where you unexpectedly lose to somebody you shouldn't, and maybe you don't win the ACC, we are at a place where people will call for his assistance. They're going to their heads. There's going to be blame. It will stop short of him, but it'll be, obviously I'm fond of the phrase, losses happen for a reason, and they inform the conversation. If that reason is because you have some more struggles on defense, people are going to call for Charles Kelly's head, period. This is that year. It's another reason why it's an interesting year, right? If that happens, people are going to say unequivocally, he's got to go. Much the way that I want Bill to be fired. Bill Miller. People will look at a lot of different guys on this staff and go, man, what are we doing here?
What if Matthew Thomas has, 115 tackles and is an all-world player this year?
It'd be a miracle.
Would you credit Bill Miller?
No. No, I won't. So Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You can tell a lot about a tractor by its warranty. That's why Mahindra makes the toughest tractors on earth. With steel, not plastic. Backed by the industry's best limited powertrain warranty, period. Not 5 years, not 6 years, but a full 7 years on select models. No wonder the other guys are green with envy.
No money down, 0% interest, and no payments until July. Available at TNT Supercenter.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck. Always enough, I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
I'm talking tough.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Sales even hotter. It's the end of the month and I've already hit my number. When have you heard that? So the rest is gravy. Gravy that Kraft Nissan is passing on to you. And I guarantee you'll get huge below invoice, no haggle pricing and save thousands. So listen to this. When you finance through NMAC, all Rogues and Muranos are $4,000 off MSRP. Not one or two, but all. And I've got over 70 to choose from. All Altimas and Maximas are $6,000 off MSRP. I said all, and I've got over 110 to choose from. And all Titans and Armadas in stock are $8,000 off MSRP. Seriously, folks, Kraft Nissan is not playing games here. There is no fast-talking disclosure or very vague, ridiculous payment with see dealer for details. These are real and serious dollars off every model. At Kraft Nissan, we do what we say, period. Plus, all new Kraft Nissans come with our free and exclusive lifetime warranty. And that's why Tallahassee is a Nissan town, a Kraft Nissan town. But you better hurry. These prices end Monday, July 31st.
For better gas mileage and a longer-lasting engine, change your vehicle's oil at Superlube every 3 months or 3,000 miles, whichever comes first. For good times and family fun, Tallahassee heads to the Fun Station. And right now, when you change your oil at Superlube, you'll get a $15 Fun Station gift card. You don't need an appointment. You'll be in and out in no time. And with 19 Tallahassee area Superlubes, there's probably one right around the corner right now.
How I love to Superlube my car, yes sir!
Welcome to Wells Fargo. How can I help you?
Well, every day I get a latte from across the street, and trust me, it's best for everyone that I come to work caffeinated. Only today, I forgot my wallet.
Don't worry. We have a new way you can get money out of the ATM. Just use your phone.
My phone?
Just open your Wells Fargo app and request a one-time access code.
Oh, that's better.
Enjoy the latte.
You have done a great service for the people in my office.
No problem.
Wells Fargo is building better every day with new ways to access your accounts. Wells Fargo Bank N.A., member FDIC.
It's the Rethink Kitchen and Bath event now at the Home Depot. Time to take your kitchen or bath from shab to chic in very little time and even less money. Start with 40% off semi-custom cabinets with soft closed doors from Home Decorators Collection. With free design services, you'll get them just right. And with shipping in 2 to 10 days, you'll get them right away. Rethink your options during the Rethink Kitchen and Bath event going on now, only at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. Now through September 3rd.
Get your weekend started right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Saturdays at 6 a.m. with Fishing Florida Radio. Listen to the three amigos, Boudreaux, Steve Chapman, and Captain Mike Ortega as they catch you up to speed on what's new and biting in the North Florida region. Big-time guests, celebrities, interviews, and 3 hours of the fishing info you need. Fishing Florida Radio is brought to you by Sea Quarters Marina off Highway 98 in Carabel. Sea Quarters Marina, your full-service marina, and presented by Hobbit American Grill, locally owned and operated since 1978.
Finding great candidates to hire can be, well, like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter is different. It doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them. With its powerful technology, ZipRecruiter distributes your job everywhere it needs to be to find the right candidates. In fact, over 80% of jobs on ZipRecruiter get a qualified candidate in just one day. So, while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, only ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
Used by businesses of all sizes, ZipRecruiter offers the most qualified job candidates with immediate results. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter free. That's right, free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free for your free trial. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Hey, Wally Woodham here. In 1974, I set the national high school passing record at Leon High with 3,560 yards.
Jimmy Jordan here. Wally, I broke your passing record at Leon the very next year.
Well, Jimmy, in our 3 years together at FSU, I threw for 22 touchdown passes.
Wally, that's pretty good, but I had 39.
Well, Jimmy, look at the deal I got at AAA Transmission.
That's a pretty good deal, Wally. At least your car's a winner.
Don't put off your auto repairs. Stop in at AAA Transmission and ask for owner Tim Pridgeon, servicing Tallahassee for over 30 years. AAA Transmission, 1023 North Monroe Street, or call them at 222-2532.
Live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios in the capital city of Tallahassee, this is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio. It's Libations Friday. Oh! Brought to you by Quarter Pocket Bar and Grill. Quarter Pocket Bar and Grill on Appalachia Parkway. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
Some people are really, really funny. That is good. Sorry, I came back on the air in the middle of a laugh fit.
What about the link I sent you this morning? People are creative, man.
That was funny. Well, there was an Onion headline yesterday that was really, really absurdly funny, and I can't really get into it on the air because it was political, but it was it was worth looking at over and over and over again. Ben Roethlisberger has said, how about this? More NFL news. They're actually talking to players who are at camp practicing, and those players are saying things. Woohoo! He just said he's not going to commit to playing football after the 2017 season. You know what I think about Ben Roethlisberger? I think that that's a weird guy to place in NFL history.
Yeah, because he doesn't get enough credit in his own era for how good he is. Fair point.
Yeah, I've thought about this. Tom Brady turns 40, and now everybody's asking about, his place, whether it is indeed unassailable at number one. I don't think he's the greatest football player of all time, so I don't put him at number one. Maybe if you get into the conversation of quarterback, you can start there. But no, I mean, I plus I always feel like it's impossible to do that. It's impossible to bridge the eras. The rules being what they were. I mean, quarterbacks of yesteryear had to throw to receivers who were allowed to be held all the way down the field. I mean, think about that. Terry Bradshaw and those guys were throwing to guys who you could just literally grab, push their arm down, hold them while you go up for the football. There's no call there. We were men out here trying to you go up there and make a damn catch. Like, more than 5 yards downfield, you could chuck. All this stuff that went on. So there's no chance that they could have put up the same numbers. So you really can't compare those eras. When you meet people who are in their 60s and 70s who've watched the NFL for their whole career, they'll bring up names where you're like, well, come on, old man. That guy's throwing for half the yards, a third of the touchdowns. That's what kids do. They immediately go to the statistics. But of a bygone era, that's impossible.
Yeah, it's not baseball.
You cannot do that.
Especially average in baseball is a great comparison.
Yeah. No, and there are people, what is fun to do in football is trying to identify players from a bygone era that or that you could say with great certainty could play today. Because that is largely impossible, right? The guy that played in 1952, if he is, transported to this era and just plopped into an NFL training camp at the same position he played in 1952 and is expected to compete, would have no shot, with very few exceptions. They're all undersized. They're all a lot slower. They didn't train year-round, sport-specific. They didn't eat properly. They didn't have all these advantages. So immediately they're way behind. Doesn't mean they weren't elite in their era. Just means that they could not compete. But there are guys that I like having this conversation about and saying, that dude would be able to play any era, anywhere, and be good.
Defensive tackle Maverick Rogers towers at 6'2", 210 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's bizarre, right? I mean, but quarterbacks, when you look at footage of guys just throwing the football, you can find guys that you say, you know what, if they protected him, that translates. That's a quick release, that's a strong arm, and it's accurate. And they weren't asking him to do what they asked quarterbacks to do today, but he could. He's 6'4", 230, big arm. He could do it. And so I always think about that. But the other positions, wide receiver and running back, tight ends, man, it's hard to find guys that you say could be able to do it. Jim Brown at running back.
Widely considered, yes.
Most would say that guy you could plop him down right now and he'd be able to, because he was built like a Greek god without working out. He had the benefits of incredible genes. I mean, people would talk about him being in the locker room the first time they ever saw him, even when he's at Syracuse, and they'd say, "Well, who the hell looks like that? Like, nobody looks like that." I mean, he had the V, and he looked like a refrigerator up top that whittled down into this perfect V, like a superhero, and was really strong. Was considered one of the greatest, if not the greatest, lacrosse player of all time, all that stuff. He would translate. And I think if you can say that and you think definitively that a guy can, then he is immediately elevated into that conversation of greatest of all time, right?
Yeah, he was fond of saying that he used his hands and arms as weapons when he was running the football.
Which is awesome.
It's a defensive mentality when you have the ball in your hands. You know, you're attacking. That's what a defensive player does. But he says, no, I'm going to use my hands as weapons. And as we've been fond of talking about over the years, he had a routine of how he got up after every play when he was brought to the ground.
Slowly, and never let on that anybody got to him.
Exactly right, yeah.
Well, I always wonder, if you look at a guy like Larry Zonka, just the monster that he was, just a horse, right?
Wait, the guy from American Gladiators?
Larry Zonka, who also went to Syracuse, which is forgotten about. Syracuse had it going on back in the day, man. Larry Zonka, why don't you venture a guess how big Larry Zonka was? Now, he played, let me just tell you this. So he plays at Syracuse. He's drafted in 1968 by the Miami Dolphins.
Yep, he's on the perfect team.
Yeah, all right. How big do you think Larry Zonka was?
5'10", 180 pounds.
6'3", 240.
No way,
Larry
really?
Zonka was no bitch.
Oh.
Larry Zonka was not having any of your nonsense, Tom Lang.
Well, the way you set me up, I'm thinking, well, this guy's diminutive, so you're going to be making a grander point.
6'3", 240 at running back.
No way. Kind of like when we saw Matt Millen. You're like, well, that dude, okay.
I don't think we say it enough. We don't talk about our experience meeting Matt Millen and the oddity of that day enough on the air. It's still one of the most bizarre experiences I've ever had as a broadcaster. You and me in the middle of a pregame show talking about Christian Ponder, only to have Matt Millen 6 hours before the game walk into our booth uninvited, dressed to the nines, I might add, looking smooth as hell as always.
That trench coat could have been a tapestry.
It was fantastic.
Huge.
It's something to behold. He walked in there just muttering to himself and then interrupted the broadcast going, "That's not true. That's not so. It isn't true." And what are you going to say to Matt Millen's big ass?
Yeah.
Crazy big ass.
And he's rocking back and forth from his heels to the balls of his feet.
And made us both nervous because he's towering over the two of us.
And he's got his hands in his trench coat pockets, and he's smiling, and he's kind of staring off in the distance. He's not really looking at us.
He's just yelling stuff aloud while I'm trying to talk live on the air, no delay. Here we are doing our thing. It was bizarre.
And we didn't have a producer. Usually I'm in that chair where I have the equipment, and I can say, all right, let's go to break. But we didn't have that because we were in Deckerhoff's and William Floyd's seats.
How big do you think Matt Millen is?
Oh, 6'5".
So this is crazy, right?
He's 6'3" as well.
He's 6'3". How much do you think he weighed?
220.
255.
Oh, God. Okay.
That's a big
Well,
man.
he was 220 when we saw him.
he was
still, 6'3", 220 is a...
It's a sizable dude.
Yeah.
But I weigh 220. So he's not... No, he's a lot bigger than me.
Well, it was a slimming coat. You know?
He's huge. Now there's a lot of ways to be 220. He's 250, 255. And also, you're talking about a failed executive, yes, but a Hall of Fame player and at linebacker at that size. The reason I bring it up, he didn't play all that long ago. Okay, he's drafted in 1980. he finished playing football in 1990. But at 6'3", 250, and being able to move as he did as a linebacker, that would work now.
Yeah, I went back and watched his film.
Oh,
given that I said to myself in
fierce,
person,
yeah.
good. I mean, you see the mangled hands on a guy like that.
Yeah, no, he's fierce.
The pain that this guy has been through.
He did get nice after we went to break and we kind of looked.
But then he disappeared.
Yeah, it was just bizarre.
He also has those icy blue
Far
eyes.
away eyes, man.
Man,
it makes you crazy.
Sure. And remember when he was on the desk of SportsCenter talking about the Paterno scandal, and he was just learning about it, and he was
choked up.
He was breaking down. He says it makes you want to do something. This guy would kill. Like he would if Sandusky
makes you want to do something.
We're in the same room. He would kill Sandusky right now.
And he would snap his neck in mere seconds.
I mean,
it would
be like a farmer killing a chicken, without the blade. He'd be like, all right,
and
we're done here.
And he would take great pleasure in doing so. Yeah, it did. It cracked me up, though. Just, you run into guys and you go, well, good Lord, that guy is insane. He's a candidate, by the way, and I hope I'm wrong, but he's a candidate. We're going to read something about him going into a far-off place.
It could.
CTE is waiting around the corner on him.
It could very well be. There was.
He may be suffering from that currently.
There was to kind of put a bookend on your politics and headlines discussion. Since he's out, I don't think he's, a figure of importance anymore. But this Onion headline from this morning was perfect, and it's perfect for me. But it says, Sean Spicer's voice immediately recognized by everyone in the Halo 5 multiplayer lobby. And his handle is Spiceman Cometh 71.
That is so perfect.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
He goes and plays Halo. That's what he does after he's fired. Hey, guys, how's it going? Is it Spicer? Is that you?
No. It says Spiceman Cometh. Oh, I don't know.
That's just because I like hot foods.
Yeah. Extra hot wings always. That's what they say.
Oh, I hate this map. I don't want to play this map. I hate stasis.
Oh, my goodness. We went way over there. It's only the first hour. We'll get focused. We'll get righted. Kinda. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You put your mower through a lot. All that back and forth can add up to thousands of miles. That's like mowing cross country. Gravely commercial mowers are built for all-day performance, helping you get the job done mile after mile. Gravely, built to mow the distance.
Get your Gravely motor only at TNT Supercenter, your one-stop shop for work or play. 14585 Highway 19 South, Thomasville, Georgia. TNTSupercenter.com.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck. Always enough. I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford. The place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
I'm talking tough.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
And with 19 Tallahassee area Super Lubes, there's probably one right around the corner right now.
How I love to super lube my car. Yes, sir.
Investing is a long-term process. How many times can you think of in the last decade that the stock market has destroyed retirement funds for people just like you and me? For your existing IRA, you need the security that gold has provided for centuries. Remember, gold has never been worth zero. Capital Gold would like to introduce you to the Home Storage Gold IRA. It's a self-directed IRA set up with all the protection and tax benefits of an LLC. But the big difference in this IRA is you invest in gold and you hold it in your possession. You can't do that with stocks. That's security. You can transfer any type of IRA hassle-free in days. Please call right now and learn more, and we'll waive the $500 setup fee and give you a free safe to store your gold. Call 800-515-6302. 800-515-6302. 800-515-6302. That's 800-515-6302.
Power Service is made just for diesels. Does your diesel run like it did when you first got it? You'd be surprised at the power you've lost over the miles. Diesel Clean plus cetane boost from Power Service restores lost power and fuel economy, cleans injectors, and smooths rough-running engines. And now buy 2 80-ounce bottles of Diesel Clean and get $10 back. That's right, $10. Learn more at PowerServiceRebate.com. PowerServiceRebate.com.
Power Service. Made just for diesels.
Offer good at participating retailers only.
This Thursday through Sunday at Kohl's Friends and Family Sale, take an extra 20% off your purchase. Get the gear, win the school year. With an extra 20% off, Junior's lace-up graphic tees are only $11.99. Score Young Men's shorts for $15.99. And Junior's denim for just $19.99. Plus, everyone gets Kohl's cash. Earn it on everything, spend it on anything. Game on. Kohl's. Select styles, 20% offer valid July 27th through 30th with promo code FRIEND20. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
So your AC is on the fritz? Call Barano Heating and Air Conditioning for help, day or night. Turn to the experts at Carrier and Barano Heating and Air, 580-4029 or BaranoAC.com. Florida license number CAC 057652.
Broadcasting live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios. This is 97.9 ESPN Radio, WTSM, Woodville, Thomasville, Tallahassee.
ESPN Radio Sports Center.
I'm Doug Brown. He missed the first 2 months of the season with a left elbow injury. Now Red Sox lefty David Price will go back to the DL with inflammation on that elbow. He was scheduled to start tonight against the Royals. Rick Porcello will take the mound instead. 2 weeks ago, coming out of the All-Star break, the Brewers had a 5.5-game lead over the Cubs in the National League Central. Since the break, Milwaukee is 4-9, and now the Cubs lead by 1.5 games. The teams open a 3-game series tonight at Miller Park. ESPN's Outside the Lines is reporting the NFL appears ready to end its working relationship with the National Institutes of Health. Almost 5 years ago, the league announced a $30 million donation for brain research. Since then, though, the NFL backed out of ongoing CTE research. Of the $30 million pledged, $16 million is unused. At an AAU summer tournament in Las Vegas today, Coach LeVar Ball was ejected after getting 2 technicals. Tournament officials decided to stop the game with Ball's team trailing by 10 points.
Gentlemen, JCPenney is celebrating Black Friday in July. This Friday and Saturday, save with amazing spotlight deals at Black Friday prices. Like up to 60% off brands like Stafford, J4R, Foundry, and more, including big and tall sizes. That's getting your pennies worth. JCPenney.
Live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios in the capital city of Tallahassee, this is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio. It's Libations Friday, brought to you by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill on Appalachie Parkway. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
Hour number 2, Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Happy Libations Friday, loosey-goosey edition of the program. Do you like ciders? Where are you at on a good cider?
I'm down with a good cider.
Like
yeah.
you can have one, right?
2 tops. Yeah.
I've had a couple of good ciders in my time.
Yeah, I think the only time I'd have more than 1 or 2, Thanksgiving, I might bring a 6 or a cider because you're used to having the apple cider anyway.
That's true. I like a good apple cider.
Yeah.
Loosey-goosey edition of the program, if you're not aware. Libations Friday is, and just was curious about the cider game.
Yeah, the old Martinelli's apple juice / cider that you get at the grocery store for
What about the
Thanksgiving?
Strongbow cider? You ever had that?
It's all right. Yeah.
You know, the beer maker, the one with the star on it, the one that Larry likes. It starts with an A, I think. The type of beer that I'm talking about. It's like a Pilsner.
That Larry likes?
Yeah.
Oh, Stella.
Stella, yeah.
Okay.
Artois, yeah.
I
Stella.
was trying to think of which Larry that you were talking about.
No. Stella makes a good cider. Did you know that?
Yes.
They make a real good cider.
Where the hell did I have that?
Yeah, they do.
Whatever day that was a good day because I can't recall.
Well, here's the thing about it. I don't want my cider, if I have one ever, which is very rare, but if I do, I don't want it real sweet. I want it to have a little giddy up to
Or
it.
that
It's gotta
dry.
have- it's got to get me a little bit.
Like
vinegar.
I've always liked the Woodchuck Granny Smith.
I haven't had it.
Oh, yeah, man.
That sounds like it might be real sweet, though.
It's like a tart.
It's got a little tart?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, it's
All right.
tart.
If you got some tart, I'm in.
Yeah.
I like it. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you go to listen live via the streaming free. Always don't miss anything. If you do, remember all 3 hours posted both on iTunes and in our own audio vault. That's done with limited commercial interruption thanks to our great sponsor, our podcast sponsor, CarltonDean.com. Go find a way to make some money, man, in commercial real estate. My guy knows all. CarltonDean.com. Email the show if you want, jcs@979espnradio.com. Find me on Twitter @JCameronShow, WTSM app, and finally on YouTube, ESPN Tallahassee. Thanks for watching. If you are, appreciate that. All right.
A lot of ways, man.
Thorough. Did you see John Gibbons, the manager of the Blue Jays, ask an umpire last night while being ejected early in their game against the A's, "What's your problem? Were you out all effing night?" That was great. I happened to be flipping around, and I found the audio, and unfortunately we can't use it, but I heard it. He said to an umpire who ejected him within a millisecond of him questioning a call, look, my man, you got some issues here. What's wrong with you? Were you out all effing night? It was great.
I think, they used to do this for the NFL when they put on the NFL This Week on HBO. I think it's moved since to Showtime. But they used to let that audio run. I mean, they do for Hard Knocks, for example. They let all the F-bombs fly and all that stuff.
It happens.
Baseball needs to do that. Our Midwestern Commissioner, Rob Manfred, needs to allow, managers to be mic'd up so we can hear every word of every ejection in the season. And then that should be shown on HBO or Showtime or Cinemax as an hour-long program of the best ejections of every Major League Baseball season. I bet you'd get a lot of eyeballs on sets, a lot of adults watching that, just waiting to hear what kinds of crazy crap comes out of the mouth of managers.
Yeah, and I would like to hear some of the things that come out of the mouths of umpires who bait managers and players into getting tossed. It's long been a problem I have with the kind of proactive way in which they seek to get people thrown out of games as opposed to turning their back, trying to avoid controversy, trying to avoid engagement. They tend to incite it oftentimes with their retorts.
I was just thinking about the NFL This Week, and Phil Simms is a contributor on that. Isn't it true? Did he not get bumped out for Tony Romo? Isn't Romo on with Nance now?
Well, yeah, Phil's gone.
Well, that's rough. A guy walks off the football field, and they say, he's already better than you are at what you do. Goodbye.
Phil sucks.
I don't disagree, but that's got to be rough.
But he's bad, man.
I think Tony's going to come back to the Cowboys. No, he just signed a deal with CBS. You're fired.
I want to talk with you in a moment. It may take a few extra minutes, so we'll save it for the second segment. I want to bring up, believe it or not, Colin Kaepernick, and I'm going to do it in a second. But before I do, real quick, we'll make this a short first segment so we can get into that. I wanted to bring up the fact that it's good stuff. Bud Elliott posted something on Tomahawk Nation, which is actually an SB Nation piece, I think. How different would college football be if UAB had hired Jimbo Fisher? And it's worth your time if you're a listener out there to read if you're a Florida State fan. It's funny. I'd forgotten all about it.
The block and everything, right? Alabama, politics.
He was going to be the head coach at UAB. Before the 2007 season, Jimbo Fisher was all but cemented as the next head coach at UAB. They had a contract to pay him $600,000. $350,000 of that would be covered by booster money. They were ready to grab him, pick him up in an airplane, take him to his introductory press conference, and then Alabama said no. Alabama blocked it. It's governed by the Regents of Bama, is UAB, and they basically said no, can't do it, which is nuts, by the way. You want to talk about walking around with a chip on your shoulder if you're UAB. How brutal is it that Bama could just go, yeah, we don't like that hire?
And then
you can't do that.
They were cast into the Valley. They shut it down for a year, and now I saw that they have an IPF of sorts. It's basically a roof over a football field, but they're starting to build their way back up. But it would have been a lot better for him.
You know who he would have had as his quarterback? And he being a quarterback guru, I imagine this would have been good.
I know, but I've forgotten in the
Joe
years.
Webb.
Oh, yeah.
Joe Webb was the quarterback there. That's who Jimbo would have inherited.
Cup of coffee with the Minnesota Vikings.
Right. He was in the league. I think he had a little bit more than a cup of coffee.
He might still be there, but I mean, as a starter. Yeah.
But I'm thinking Jimbo's made magic with people that aren't as good as Joe Webb.
Perhaps that may have played for the same organization as Joe Webb.
That's correct. It's pretty remarkable, right? So I don't know. That's just something that interests me. All right, well, I'm going to get into quarterbacks in a second, in particular Colin Kaepernick. That's next. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You can tell a lot about a tractor by its warranty. That's why Mahindra makes the toughest tractors on earth. With steel, not plastic. Backed by the industry's best limited powertrain warranty, period. Not 5 years, not 6 years, but a full 7 years on select models. No wonder the other guys are green with envy.
No money down, 0% interest, and no payments until July. Available at TNT Supercenter.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck, always enough. I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Just one day. So, while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, only ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
Used by businesses of all sizes, ZipRecruiter offers the most qualified job candidates with immediate results. And right now you can try ZipRecruiter free. That's right, free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free for your free trial. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Get your weekend started right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Saturdays at 6 a.m. with Fishing Florida Radio. Listen to the three amigos, Boudreaux, Steve Chapman, and Captain Mike Ortega as they catch you up to speed on what's new and biting in the North Florida region. Big-time guests, celebrities, interviews, and 3 hours of the fishing info you need. Fishing Florida Radio is brought to you by Sea Quarters Marina off Highway 98 in Carabel. Sea Quarters Marina, your full-service marina. And presented by Hobbit American Grill, locally owned and operated since 1978.
This is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. A lot has been made. Real quick, I want to touch on this because I've largely ignored it because there are an awful lot of stupid takes when it comes to this particular subject. But I do find it interesting that Colin Kaepernick is not signed in a camp just as an arm currently because Arena League players are getting signed. The Ravens have decided to pass after expressing interest in Colin Kaepernick. And, you know, my thought on this, Tom, it's been twofold, and we haven't spent a lot of time on it because every other outlet does, and they spend a lot of time race baiting and doing a number of things that, well, frankly, I'm just disinterested in and I find disingenuous. Do I think Colin Kaepernick, to a large degree, has been blackballed because of his takes, his stance, and regarding the anthem and his protests? Owner to owner, I don't know that I think that. He's not any good is a big part of this. He sucks and has for some time. He's not the guy that led the 49ers to the Super Bowl. I mean, he is that person, but he hasn't played like that person in a long time. If you look at any discernible measure, aside from the fact that he does have a nice touchdown-to-interception ratio from a year ago, let's use some people hate Pro Football Focus, but I'm just trying to use various advanced metrics. He's the 29th rated quarterback in the league last year. He's a guy that when he has a clean pocket, if you look at adjusted completion percentage, 68%, 68.1, a passer rating of 92.6 with a clean pocket, was 29th in the league, 33rd in adjusted completion percentage. He's not an accurate passer. He's just not. He's a weapon with his legs, but he is a subpar to bad, frankly, quarterback. He ranked just ahead of Jared Goff, okay? Just ahead of Ryan Fitzpatrick. He was behind people like Trevor Siemian and Cody Kessler.
And yet that's still a viable backup job, right?
Without question. And that's the second part of where I was going to go. If you're worse than Blake Bortles, and he was, and if you're worse than Matt Barkley or Trevor Siemian, it's not surprising that people aren't flocking to sign you. You suck. You're barely hanging on. You're barely hanging on in the league where there are more viable options of guys that we all universally agree aren't very good, but they're better than you. And yet, you absolutely, if you are deserving and rank above anybody in the league in a compilation of stats that by which we judge quarterbacks, if you rank ahead of some starters, and he ranks ahead of 2, yeah, you should be a backup somewhere. And do I think he's not getting that call because of the protest? Sure. But I also understand when I hear people say, it's outrageous, it's crazy. Well, you have to weigh the PR hit you're taking for the gain that you're getting. It's my club. I can decide whether or not I want to do that. If it's going to cost me money and you're a marginal quarterback at best, that doesn't make me a racist.
No, and it's the same thing as the Michael Sam situation or as the Tim Tebow situation.
If you're good,
it goes in line with distraction level. And the idea is if you have a role player or somebody who's going to be holding a clipboard for your team and may make, a couple of starts, or if they're a position player, they may appear in 50 reps for the season or something like that, play special teams for you. Do you really want that guy to be the center of attention? Do you want that guy to have a sidebar written about him after, the first 4 or 5 games of the season? Do you need that distraction in your locker room? And I'm saying this to make a point because it's these are different factions of people who support these athletes, whether it's Kaepernick or Sam or Tebow. Some people support all of them. Some people support none of them. But either way, they're all distractions and they're all marginal players.
And that's the category he falls in for me, which is why I understand that teams aren't eager to sign him, and I'm able to differentiate the many different reasons they feel that way and not assume that all of them fall under the umbrella of racism or bigotry. I think that some do. I don't think there's any question there are owners who have no time for him, and that's based solely on his political stance or the color of his skin or the way that he looks. Sure, I think that happens. I'm not naive. I get that exists in the world and in that league. Do I think the vast majority of them just realize that what you're getting for the controversy you're bringing in is really a substandard player, and is that risk-reward worth it? I would bring in Colin Kaepernick if he was content with being a backup and taking backups money. If he says, I want to be a starter and I want to compete for the job and I have a guy I already like at the position, if I have Joe Flacco and he's my quarterback, who I'm not in love with these days, but let's say I got Joe Flacco and he's my guy, he's certainly better than Colin Kaepernick, and he wants to fight for that job and he's going to go at it in that way and not accept the role of backup quarterback as an emergency guy maybe if Flacco goes down, well, then maybe I don't do that. Maybe I bring in a guy who understands you're not competing for the starting job here. Stand down.
Yeah, my sense is, though, that he's fine with that. The reason I say that...
And if he is, he should be signed then because he is a very viable backup without question.
Because the reason, the couple of reasons are he said he's not going to kneel anymore for the national anthem. And then he also has... What was the other point he made? Okay, so he's asked about the cause, and what he stands for and everything around the controversy. He's talking about football only these days. He's not.
Is that what he said?
Well, no, I'm saying he's not going out to the media and saying I'm being blackballed because I am standing up for a cause. He's not making himself a distraction in this process. He's trying to find work. So I think there's a big difference there. Now, if you as an organization say, as a policy, we don't allow backup quarterbacks to be interviewed in a setting, I'm sorry. Starters will be interviewed, and if there are select role players, we'll make them available on Wednesdays or something along those lines. But Colin Kaepernick's not going to be available. Hell, I mean, Jimbo Fisher last year had DeAndre Francois, who's a redshirt freshman and by any standard should be available.
Did not roll him out to the press.
No, he was available post-games, and that was it. You know why? Because he played, and he was talking about the game. But he didn't put him out there on Mondays after his press conference or Wednesdays or Thursdays like he had Jameis Winston. That's his prerogative. He could say you're not allowed to interview him. I get the sense that Colin Kaepernick is not out to try and distract anymore. He's just trying to go get money.
Trying to get paid, sure.
And he'll deal with what he feels strongly about in his own personal life.
Well, my only point here was that I get that owners aren't flocking to sign him for reasons other than the controversy surrounding his protest. He's not any good. So I get that, and I can understand it and accept that. And if you're somebody who's looking for a backup quarterback to sign, not a starter, and he says, okay, I'm fine with being a back. I just want a job, and I think I've proved that I can be a backup quarterback around the league. Okay, if you bring him in and you decide, man, this is going to create controversy, I may lose in ticket sales, I may lose in merchandise, I may put off my fan base because of this guy's stance. And so now you're asking yourself, can I sign another backup quarterback who's nearly as good as he is and avoid all of this? I get that approach too. If you think the margin between what he is as a backup quarterback and the lists of players that you could bring in, including guys out of the Arena League and the World League and all these, if he's, for lack of a better term, worlds better than they are, and you have such a policy in place, then I think he's a really worth the risk. I think he's a safe bet, and I would bring him in.
Well, what you're saying by citing those stats earlier is that he's a top 35 or top 40 quarterback. So well, I mean, they only measure people who have enough reps. But, I mean, seriously, who is sitting a guy this day and age? The way that people expect rookies to perform and people expect wins and jobs are changed. Unless you're out in Cincinnati, you could be fired any year. So I don't think you're sitting a better quarterback, just to let him develop. I mean, Goff, if he was ready, they would have started him.
I think, to use an example a year ago, I think Glennon was a better quarterback than Colin Kaepernick. He sat the bench.
He could be. He could be.
I think we both think he is.
But I said top 40. You know what I mean?
Okay, well, that's fair, yeah. I'm just saying there might be a few. I think very little of Colin Kaepernick, the quarterback.
If there was zero political factor to Colin Kaepernick,
yeah, he'd have a job.
What's the percentage chance he'd have a job right
There's
now?
no doubt, and that's why I'm not naive in saying that I'm ignoring those factors as not being a part of these decisions. I get why this gets brought up. People say, oh, really? You could sign this deadbeat, but you're not going to sign Colin Kaepernick? But people act like there aren't other mitigating factors beyond the controversy and the political stance, right? He's not very good, and he's going to invite with him off-the-field issues you don't have to deal with by taking another marginal quarterback to be a backup. So not all these guys who say no to Colin Kaepernick are doing so because they're bigots or because they disagree with his stance. They think he sucks. There are other backup quarterbacks who also suck that I can sign for the same price and not invite the controversy.
But the fact that 32 teams have said no to him.
That speaks to collusion. That does speak to a lot of owners deciding, screw this guy, we'll teach our players a lesson. I agree with that too. This is one of those cases where both can be true.
Yeah.
I can be an owner who's not racist, who might even agree with him, even though no owner is going to publicly say that, who might even agree with the stance and still say, he's not any good. I can sign a guy who's close to his talent and not invite this controversy and not alienate certain members of my fan base, and we're good here.
Yeah,
I'm choosing that option.
In theory, yes, but I think there are plenty of organizations that have far worse talent at the backup position than Colin Kaepernick. I mean,
aren't inviting the kinds of controversies that he does.
Beyond marginal, though. It's beyond marginal.
Sure, I think he should be in the league based on what he brings to the table, which is poor quarterback play, but better than a lot of other backups.
To your example, Tampa Bay was one of those teams that last year, if he was available in the offseason, let's say the Bucs had the exact same scenario going into this regular season where it was Winston and Glennon. Okay, nobody can blame Tampa. Their
there was
quarterback
no way.
situation is
A
better.
much better situation.
But there are a host of teams that if you even look at their starters, like if you look at the Jets situation and you look at their backup and you'd say, really? So Colin Kaepernick wouldn't make you a better football team, at least a deeper team at the quarterback position?
Yeah.
There's 10 or 15 other teams like that at minimum in the NFL. So I think that while you're absolutely right, there can be two things true at the same time. The idea that an owner could say, I can sign somebody marginally close to Colin Kaepernick is only true for maybe about 10 teams to 12 teams in the league. Yeah. Not all 32, not even close.
Not all 32. I think maybe more than half. I think he stinks. When I watch him play, he's terrible. I mean, he's really fallen off a cliff. I don't know what happened, how it happened, and why. I don't know if there's a confidence issue, an injury issue, the stuff off the field being a distraction. I don't know. He was a much better player a few years ago, and that guy certainly wouldn't be without work. It's just he's not very good.
I'm not defending him as though he's a top 20 quarterback, don't get me wrong, because, again, multiple things can be true at the same time. But we've talked about quarterbacks who are on the fence and who've been through how many systems and how many years, offensively speaking. And in a pinch, would you rather have E.J. Manuel or Colin Kaepernick go win? You know what I mean?
Colin Kaepernick in a pinch.
Yeah. Or Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, the Bucs have Ryan Fitzpatrick.
That's unfortunate.
That's their backup right now.
Yeah, he's better than Ryan Fitzpatrick.
See what I'm saying? Like, I mean, damn.
Right, but it's not as simple as that because Ryan Fitzpatrick, who sucks, and Colin Kaepernick, who also sucks, Ryan Fitzpatrick is not causing people to stand outside your stadium protesting your personnel and costing you PR and money. And, yeah, I mean, those guys aren't. I get we're running in circles here. I got you. I think somebody should sign him by now. It makes sense, especially when you look at the rosters of NFL teams and you see some of the arms being brought into camps. I will also accept that maybe, and this is probably true specifically for me, that each one of those situations I'd need to delve a little further into from a cap situation. I'd want to know specifically what Kaepernick's agent is asking. I'd want to know every factor that goes into signing a guy because I think that if it's close at all, people are always going to opt for out of controversy, always, if it's close. If the numbers are right and this guy is reasonably in the same realm of a quarterback talent as Colin, always. So that's going to severely limit the number of teams that he is even an option for. Mm-hmm. And because we don't know all of those things, it makes it harder to judge each team as they say, I'll take a pass.
Sure. If he's asking for some ridiculous amount of money, he doesn't strike me as that type, given that he's not voicing his concern about being blackballed to the media right now, which is the way he was characterized last season. You'd think that that's exactly what he would do right now, and it's not. And while I understand, and I said earlier, Michael Sam, Tim Tebow, Colin Kaepernick, they all bring their own types of circus with them that you don't really want to deal with as an NFL organization.
Especially if the player can't play.
He's better than Tebow was. He's better than Sam was. He can help you more than those two other players could, for sure.
Tebow and Sam didn't wear socks that have police depicted as pigs. There's a big difference there. He did that. That matters. And you don't get a pass for that. Your right to stand up or to kneel in this case, absolutely recognized. And I think there's somewhat of a faux furor over some of this. People pretend to care a lot more than they actually do about that stuff. And it's written about in a way that I think is probably on the extreme end as well. But he didn't help himself with that because no matter what you think about the injustices, and you know I'm open and honest about the way I feel about most things involving race, politics, religion, you name it, and I'm fine with having those debates and those conversations. It's one of the beautiful things about the country. And I very rarely find myself ever offended by much. I can see where people have a serious problem with him calling police pigs.
Yeah, I can understand that, but Adrian Peterson whipped his child bloody.
Well, and you know what I think of Adrian Peterson.
And the Saints picked him up, and he might be over the hill. They're going to give a flyer to Adrian Peterson. I mean, if a team wants to deal,
right.
He's going to sell like 12 jerseys before he's cut? I mean, you know.
No, Adrian Peterson might actually be able to play. Really, I mean, we're not entirely sure. He has come back from more, extenuating circumstances and produced record numbers before, and he's been more than a marginal player.
But I think it's fair to say that if a team wants to go to this is again, all things can be true at the same time.
I hate Adrian Peterson, and I was for that league doing more and telling him to go to hell.
But if they want,
take it down Main Street, buddy. You ain't playing here again.
Right, and he last year before he got hurt, what was he like 2 yards of carry? But if a team wants to deal with controversy, they can. That's the thing. They don't want to deal with it
it's all agreed. And I think that has more to do with the fact that he's a marginal player who's inviting an extreme off-the-field distraction, and maybe even costing you dollars. Do I think, again, that some of this has to do with an aspect of racism? Yes, I do. But do I think that's true across the board with the teams that are turning him down? Absolutely not. There are plenty of teams who would look at him and say, he's just not any good. He's not worth it. He's just, I can find a guy who's in this roundabout area of expertise that he is, and he's not inviting any of this. So it's a fun discussion, though, in that sense. That part of it is what I get mad about, is because it's largely ignored. There are other mitigating factors beyond just the fact that he is polarizing.
Yeah, it's the Ray Rice. I'm getting blackballed. No,
right.
you suck.
You stink.
Yeah.
You stink. So were there backs in the league that he was better than at the time that nobody gave him a shot after he punched his wife in the face? Yep.
The difference is this guy's a top 40 quarterback who can help you in a pinch when you got somebody going, you started going down. He might get you to that 10-win plateau by giving you one. I mean, Charlie Batch had value for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I get you. He didn't bring the controversy with him.
Charlie Batch.
But the quarterback position is kind of important. And while I totally agree with you, and we are going in circles, that some owners
right.
can say that and say, I can find somebody marginally close. Many can't. Many don't have that option, and they're still saying no.
Well, and I would say that in a vacuum, he should be in a camp somewhere competing, being a third-string guy while they haven't had cuts yet. I mean, he should be somewhere. He's at least as good enough to get an invite there. Sure, that should happen. But it's not in a vacuum. There is all that other stuff that's out there, and people are rarely sensitive to the idea of distractions right as you get underway. And if they think for a second that he's going to serve as a major distraction, I somewhat would debate with them the idea that he'd be a major distraction, especially if you have in place a policy by which he's not allowed to talk to the press. If you put that policy in place, he should be signed now.
Yeah, I think you can.
And I think if you wouldn't do it for the Bucs, for example. Again, you wouldn't do it because Hard Knocks is in town, and what would they focus on? I mean, good Lord, right? You wouldn't do it. And you have a young quarterback, et cetera. But one of those other teams, like the Texans or somebody, maybe not fly in Texas. That's another tough call. Their regionality matters.
But in Dallas, they'll take a guy who throws his woman on a pile of guns.
You're damn right they would. And it's awful. Listen, it's hypocritical. The league is a league of mercenaries. We say all these things. These are not just catchphrases. There are examples of all of these things constantly. I've sometimes scratched my head at what people will accept and what they won't accept, and the idea that Baltimore fans would decide to protest and no longer go to games. The same team that had Ray Lewis and the aforementioned running back. Oh, you're going to walk away.
Yeah,
I see.
And the owners aren't doing this out of the goodness of their heart because they want to incite peace throughout the world.
No. Yeah, motives are very different. Just in the interest of balance, a lot of these teams that are saying no to him aren't doing so solely because of the controversy that he's brought upon himself to some degree, and that he has at times been certainly questioned about. They're doing it because he's not very good. He's not a great option, and there is that other stuff. I just wish more people would begin the conversation with, all right, given that there's a finite number of teams that would have any use for an average-ass quarterback at best like Colin Kaepernick, let's look at these four who could. Let's begin there.
Look at the Jets.
Right.
Anywhere McCowns have been. All right, anywhere.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because they find employment.
It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You put your mower through a lot. All that back and forth can add up to thousands of miles. That's like mowing cross country. Gravely commercial mowers are built for all-day performance, helping you get the job done mile after mile. Gravely, built to mow the distance.
Get your Gravely motor only at TNT Supercenter, your one-stop shop for work or play. 14585 Highway 19 South, Thomasville, Georgia. TNTSupercenter.com.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck. Always enough. I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
I'm talking tough.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Put off your auto repairs. Stop in at AAA Transmission and ask for owner Tim Pridgeon, servicing Tallahassee for over 30 years. AAA Transmission, 1023 North Monroe Street, or call them at 222-2532.
Tallahassee loves the corner pocket as much as a crystal ball winning catch.
He's looking, he lost it to the end zone. It's Benjamin! Touchdown! With 13 seconds left.
The 97.9 ESPN radio special is a must-have every Monday and Wednesday at the corner pocket. 10 mouth-watering wings, a fresh side of fries, and a chilled domestic pint of beer are just $9.79 all day long. Be sure and try the fish blend of sauces, a true wing eater's favorite. The Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
He's gone!
Home of Trivia Tuesday, Beer Bingo Thursday, and the daily $7.99 lunch special.
ESPN Radio Sports Center.
I'm Doug Brown. He missed the first 2 months of the season with a left elbow injury. Now Red Sox lefty David Price will go back to the DL with inflammation on that elbow. He was scheduled to start tonight against the Royals. Rick Porcello will take the mound instead. 2 weeks ago, coming out of the All-Star break, the Brewers had a 5.5-game lead over the Cubs in the National League Central. Since the break, Milwaukee is 4-9, and now the Cubs lead by 1.5 games. The teams open a 3-game series tonight at Miller Park. ESPN's Outside the Lines is reporting the NFL appears ready to end its working relationship with the National Institutes of Health. Almost 5 years ago, the league announced a $30 million donation for brain research. Since then, though, the NFL backed out of ongoing CTE research. Of the $30 million pledged, $16 million is unused. At an AAU summer tournament in Las Vegas today, Coach LeVar Ball was ejected after getting 2 technicals. Tournament officials decided to stop the game with Ball's team trailing by 10 points.
Gentlemen, JCPenney is celebrating Black Friday in July. This Friday and Saturday, save with amazing spotlight deals at Black Friday prices. Like up to 60% off brands like Stafford, J4R, Foundry, and more, including big and tall sizes. That's getting your penny's worth. JCPenney.
Live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios in the capital city of Tallahassee, this is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio. It's Libations Friday, brought to you by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill on Appalachia Parkway. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
Next hour, Joe Bucks fan, Lita Kemper, JoeBucksFan.com. NFL talk. Tampa Bay Buccaneers camp has begun, is underway. We'll talk to him about that. Exciting times down in Tampa Bay. And a new fight song. So cheesy that we love it.
I really do.
It's so awful, it's great. Fight songs, especially campy sort of 1950s fight songs, have to be that way for you to like them, right? When you go to a Bears game in Chicago at Soldier Field, they often break into song, and it's whenever they sing the song, it makes me smile. It's funny, it's hilarious, and it's very collegial.
All the Midwestern teams have it. Northeastern teams do, obviously. Then there's the great debate about the Houston Oilers and the Miami Dolphins having the exact same song. And, yeah, I like the Eagles one. Fly, Eagles, fly, or however it goes. Matthew knows.
Yeah. I like them all. I really can't think of too many fight songs, especially if they embrace the cheese. that I don't like. I like all of them. The Chicago Bears one, by the way, is Bear Down Chicago Bears, and it's just you're sitting there and then Bear Down Chicago Bears, and they just break it out. You're like, yes.
Yeah, you want to do the march
you
from
do.
your stare.
You
yeah,
can't
from your
help
seat.
yourself. It's great. It's funny.
Yeah, the Bucks one had been the de facto Bucks theme, I should say, was the ride, the Pirates of the Caribbean ride in Disney.
Yo ho ho ho, a pirate's life for me.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
It's great.
Yeah,
it was my favorite ride as a kid.
But this new one, I like it.
I do too. We're not going to play it right now.
No, because they do a mashup with like people in the city. If they come out with a fully,
hey, listen, anytime you add a gospel choir to something, it's good, and they do in this, and so that's what I'm talking about.
If they do the whole song with a gospel choir, I'm in.
Get in there, baby.
I will purchase it.
Well, it's our bi-weekly update on why you should be watching Houston Astros baseball. You forgot that segment was on the horizon, didn't you, listener? Jose Altuve, unless you were aware of this, Tom, and I don't think that you were, is hitting in the month of July. You ready for this? It's July 28th.
So the month's over.
The month's over. I didn't change the numbers going into the segment to what he did last night. So it's a little unfair, I suppose. I'm a couple percentage points off one way or the other, maybe at worst. He hit .494 in July. The entire month of July. .494.
Holy Jesus.
Now, the first half of the season, there was an awful lot of talk, and understandably so, about Aaron Judge at 6'7", 497 pounds. He's 270. He's legitimately huge. And all of his home runs, and how whether or not he could end up winning a Triple Crown. But you head into August, and the race for the AL MVP honors now has to include Jose Altuve. He's 5'6". And they say that baseball is the most democratic sport because it allows people of all shapes and sizes to participate and to have a chance to be good.
Have a chance to hit 500 for a month.
I mean, 5'6". He leads the major leagues now with a .365 batting average on the season, which is, I used to love, I was reminded of the Hall of Fame class of Cal Ripken Jr. and Tony Gwynn. The greatest moment for baseball in Cooperstown ever. Those two sharing the stage together, going in together, being born mere weeks apart from each other, mirroring their careers, both get to 3,000 hits, both play for the same team for their whole career. Over 70,000 people showed up to Cooperstown for their induction. Never before or since has anything come close to that. People were in awe of those two individuals, and they were the epitome of class and production and work ethic and craft and all of those things. And Jose Altuve kind of reminds me of one of those kinds of guys, and that he has a passion and a love, and at 5'6", overcomes, obviously a physical disadvantage in terms of what you would think to be that comes with strength and size and all of that. He's hitting .365. He loves it, plays with a flair that is infectious, I think. He's in position now to win his third AL batting crown. He has, over 1,000 on base plus OPS percentage now. Ranked second in the AL, only to Judge right now. He's on track to lead the American League in hits for the fourth consecutive season. It's gone by kind of quietly is why I bring it up, because I think, we all know Altuve is a really good player. I don't know. I think if you asked the average baseball fan, not an Astros fan, did you know that this guy now will lead the American League in hits for a fourth consecutive year, and that he is going to win the batting crown for the third time? I don't think a lot of people realize that.
I think if you ask the average baseball fan that, they'd say, no, I didn't expect that. And if you ask the average sports fan who Jose Altuve is, they couldn't tell you who he is. But that's fantastic that at his size, he's eyeing his third batting crown at a young age. But most fantastic that he's opting over 1,000?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
At 5'6"?
Have yourself a year, right?
That's not supposed to happen. Not post-1920 at that size.
He opts for July over 1,200. Hey, you should know this. In the history of baseball, and this is a fun subject to bring up, because he has a couple of days yet to be able to do this, so we'll see. There have only ever been 7 guys to hit over 500 in a month, for an entire month. George Sisler did it, the famed George Sisler back in 1920. He hit 526 for the month of June.
He's probably 5'6".
Ty Cobb, which was really towering at the time.
Yeah, man.
Ty Cobb back in July of 1918, and we all would have guessed Ty Cobb would be on this list, by the way, just knowing his career statistics. Ty Cobb hit 521 for the month of July in 1918. Joe Jackson, Shoeless Joe, if you will, 1916, he hit 512. Todd Helton, you want a modern player in 2000, we forget how good a hitter Todd Helton was sometimes. He hit 512 for the month of May. Rogers Hornsby, you'll note that these guys are, for the most part, Hall of Famers. Rogers Hornsby hit 509 in August of 24. Not too many modern guys on here, only Todd Helton. Joe Jackson did it twice in his career. Way back in 1913 he did it, and in 1927 Harry Hellman did it. So Altuve's place is interesting, the first to do this since 2000, to have a chance to do it since 2000. That is now 17 years ago, and he would only be the second guy post-1927 to do it.
And at a 1927 size. That's incredible. In the day and age of fireballers who throw 96 plus. That's the other thing, too. You know, evolution happens from a velocity standpoint, and this guy's keeping up with it.
By the way, we're wrong in terms of how tall these other guys were, and maybe it's why they were giants in the game as well at the time. Altuve would be the shortest of all time to ever do this by a lot, by 5 inches. All those guys were 5'10" or above, 5'11" or above.
How about that? Well, I
think about Babe Ruth at 6'4" or 6'3", whatever he was. He was considered a mountainous man.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going back to the 1500s or anything like that, so I got you there. And watching the Ken Burns Civil War documentary as I'm doing in my private life and mowing through it.
Lincoln stands so tall over everybody. It's hilarious. At 6'4", he walks in a room and everybody looks like a bunch of band of, short people.
Sure, those kinds of. The average height of the Civil War soldier was 5'8", and the average rate was maybe 140, 150. So, yeah, I mean, Altuve would have been short in the Civil War.
If you would have thrown us back there at those times, you just plopped us down and said, hey, you got to get into hand-to-hand. You're like, all right, hand-to-hand with these guys. Sure, let's get it on.
Their bayonets don't reach me.
Yeah, just be holding by the top of their heads. Go ahead, swing again. Jeff Cameron Show 97.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You can tell a lot about a tractor by its warranty. That's why Mahindra makes the toughest tractors on earth. With steel, not plastic. Backed by the industry's best limited powertrain warranty, period. Not 5 years, not 6 years, but a full 7 years on select models. No wonder the other guys are green with envy.
No money down, 0% interest, and no payments until July. Available at TNT Supercenter.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck. Always enough, I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford. The place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Absolutely right. When TNT Supercenter put the 40 horsepower Mahindra 4540 tractor on sale last month for $11,995, our customers couldn't get enough. So we're doing it again this month.
Tell me about your Beat the Heat special.
The Mahindra 2538 cab tractor with a loader has an air-conditioned cab plus tons of extra features like four-wheel drive, free-range, hydrostatic transmission, power steering with a tilt wheel, a 7-year limited warranty. And did I mention air conditioning?
You did, but Brent, how much?
Just $297 a month with zero down with approved credit.
No wonder Mahindra is the best-selling tractor in the world. TNT Supercenter is really on a mission.
TNT Supercenter and Mahindra Tractors on a mission to help everybody lift more, push more, and pull more.
TNT Supercenter, US 19 South, next to Dairy Queen in Thomasville, and online at TNTSupercenter.com.
Are you an experienced tree worker, arborist, or climber? Wouldn't you like a great full-time job? Hi, I'm Mike Cross of ArborWorks Tree Care and Removal, and I'd like to meet you. ArborWorks has served this community since 2002. We use new, state-of-the-art equipment, and we offer competitive hourly pay plus overtime. So if you are a tree worker, an arborist, or a climber, this is the opportunity for you. Call me at 228-6738. That's 228-6738. ArborWorks Tree Care and Removal.
You're locked in with the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Always got to wait for that baseline. You know, I don't think I would have realized or thought about this because in the past it hasn't really mattered, but it does with baseball. But the league salary cap, there isn't one in baseball, I understand. But the league salary cap, meaning the NFL, is at an all-time high, by the way. Were you aware of that?
Yeah, I knew it went up a decent amount this offseason.
Yeah, quite a bit.
20 million? Something like, it was something crazy.
It went, the 32 teams are a combined $602 million beneath the salary cap currently, 36% higher than the amount of reserves, if you will, that were held by teams last year. That's an average of nearly $19 million per team in total underneath the cap. And they're talking about NFL teams reporting to camp and toting an unexpected heavy load, a mountain of unspent cash. And why is that? What's the reason for teams doing that? The salary cap this season, by the way, is a record $167 million per team. And so, yeah, I think that's about right, what you said, the estimate in terms of the uptick.
Yeah, maybe it was in the teens, but yeah, I thought it was the upper 140s last year. Could be wrong.
The flush coffers highlight a peculiar reality across the league. Most teams in the league could be better, but they're choosing not to be, and this would be the equivalent of tanking. This is the way they're viewing it. A good article today in the Wall Street Journal. The NFL's salary cap for this season, a record 167, should have, in theory, produced a spending bonanza. In some instances, it did, but most teams simply added the surplus to their rainy day funds for now. This is possible because of a provision in the collective bargaining agreement that requires teams to spend 89% of their caps, but measured over a 4-year window. This year marks the beginning of a new 4-year window. So, in effect, all teams begin this season with the option to kind of squirrel away cash and then seize an opportunity as some big-name free agents come up.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And if you're just looking to our favorite team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're also on the eve of having to sign Mike Evans to a huge deal, and then they're a year out from having to negotiate. Maybe they want to get ahead of the curve with one Jameis Winston. So if they have a lot of cap space, they know where that money is going, and it's going to be spent with their two best players on offense in the coming years.
The Buccaneers' cap room going into this season, Tom, is $23,578,886. Before you think that's a lot, if you want to look around the league, the 49ers have $66 million in cap room, which, if I'm a 49ers fan, would piss me off. Might note that the Browns, who are also terrible, have $53 million in cap space. The Bucs aren't on the low end. That's still an awful lot under the cap that they're not spending, $23,578,000, but for the good reason that you gave. Some teams that are right around that area, the $20 to $25 million range under the cap, the Bears are that way. The Bengals are that way. Also, the Cardinals are that way. So there's a carryover in each of those situations from the previous year, and if you just look at the $23 million figure, you might say, well, goodness gracious, that's ridiculous. But $5 million of that's a carryover from the previous. So,
yeah, for me, if I'm a 49ers fan, I'm okay with it this year because this is supposed to be the draft where you actually have quarterbacks that you think could be franchise quarterbacks with Darnold and USC and then obviously Rosen out of UCLA, and you're trying to tank for a top 2 pick this year. If I'm a 49ers fan, yes, we got the coach we wanted. I mean, maybe he isn't. Maybe he isn't as good as we think he is, but you got a brand new coach. You got a brand new GM. Let's start preparing.
Yeah.
and let's put ourselves in position to capitalize on a good draft pick this year and see if we can entice a key free agent or two in the next year or two.
Teams will argue they are simply managing the system. Others say it's concerning, though, most notably the players who want the extra dollars to end up in their pockets. Quote, if I'm a season ticket holder, why do I want to renew my ticket if my team isn't even trying to win? That, according to Eric Winston, a Cincinnati Bengals tackle and president of the NFL Players Association. Adds longtime NFL executive Bill Polian, you got to be right if you're going to follow this approach. If you're not right, they really have cheated the fans in that case. Yeah, well, I get that, though. I mean, you always run the risk that the guy you bring in who you think is the right guy either fails to live up to your expectations or gets hurt, and then you're wrong, and then you've been saving all of that money under the cap, cheating the fans, all to go to a guy that doesn't turn your franchise around. But really, that's the only way you can do it. I get that. I mean, you wait till you are a couple of players away and you have a franchise quarterback and you go into an offseason with $50 million under the cap in the case of the Cleveland Browns. They're not close right now. But in a year they might be, 2 years they might be, especially if they found their guy at quarterback. And then you go get that star receiver and that star linebacker and that star defensive end.
Yeah, that's how you build it. And just looking at our good friend Charlie Campbell from WalterFootball.com was looking at the 2018 mock draft. It's way, way, way too early for that.
Yeah.
But just to get a general idea, he has 5 quarterbacks going in the first round. So, there's a kid from Wyoming apparently that's going to be a top 5 pick, and that's really hard because Carson Wentz was somebody who was put up in that category, but you can't really tell.
Right. He's a stud, though. I like Wyoming.
Yes,
he actually can play.
You have Wyoming gear thanks to
I do.
a great listener
That's
of ours.
right. I wear Wyoming gear sometimes.
And then in addition to Darnold, who I mentioned, and Rosen, who's in the back half of the first round at the moment, then there's also Lamar Jackson. Somebody's going to take a chance on Lamar.
Good luck.
Teams are going to take a chance on him.
It's not going to work.
And then Stidham out of Auburn. Those are the 5 right now that are at least projected to go in the first round.
That's one of the reasons, by the way, Auburn is so interesting.
So versus Trubisky and Deshaun Watson. I didn't say it.
You were about to?
It was in my head, but I didn't say it. This is the year that you want to tank. There are years where you don't want the first pick, and that wasn't the case this past season. They were trying to trade out of it, was Cleveland.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't have wanted any of the quarterbacks that just went. I mean, not Trubisky, certainly not Deshaun Watson. I was just of the mindset that there wasn't one.
But if there's a year where you want to save your money and tank, this is your year.
Yeah, they want flexibility. Teams want flexibility, and it's the NFL salary cap system rewards tanking this year more than ever. In the past, the payoff for tanking, if you will, was a high draft pick to be used on a franchise quarterback or a transformative player anyhow. Now teams have increasingly embraced the ability to stockpile tens of millions of dollars, theoretically, says the article. It can be spent once the team is in a push for the playoff, which is what I was just describing. And, that does allow you to have the flexibility to go out and get a bunch of guys, not just save it up for a rainy day. But, okay, now we're close. Now we found our franchise quarterback. Clearly we've got something. Like I said on the show earlier this week, anymore, it does not take very long for people to figure out whether they got their guy. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in wins and losses. The measurement is in your acumen for the game, your willingness to stretch the field, take chances. You can find out what a guy is pretty quickly. We've seen this now around the league, almost instantly. People come into the league and we go, he can play. They're a ways away, and he's going to have his troubles because he keeps getting hit, and hopefully they don't beat him into finding ghosts. But he can play. You knew 6 games into Jameis Winston's career, he can play. He's going to be all right. Carr in Oakland.
Oh, yeah.
Probably 6 to 8 games in, we went, yep, he can play.
The funny thing was in the draft process, he was doing his tour on NFL Network and with Gruden and all that stuff. And obviously you look at Fresno State and you don't think much. But we both circled back to him. There was one day we're off the air and we're talking about the mocks and
I was like, I think Carr.
Like, you like
good.
Carr? I said, yeah, I actually like Carr.
I do too.
I do too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think he's got something.
We got it right. We've gotten it wrong before, but we got it right on that one.
Taylor Mays. Never got it more wrong in my life.
But that said, it'll be interesting moving forward with all this money. San Francisco's cash reserve, almost $39 million, is the result of carryover from prior years. The Browns, with more than $50 million in carryover, lead the league in that department. No coincidence that these two teams had the 2 worst records in the NFL last year. Both teams undergoing major rebuilds. and the choice over the past few years of spending more to prop up a bad team or to have even more to spend down the road, they chose the latter. And I do think that if you're a fan of either one of those two teams, you've waited this long, the teams are bad. If you'd spent that money just because you could, what were you going to do? Like the article notes, rightfully, you would have been propping up a bad team. What would you have bought with that money? Maybe another win and a half if you were doing the over-under on that, win shares. I mean, what maybe?
Yeah, the one thing that I'd look at if I'm Tampa, and I wonder if they go pick somebody up off the scrap heap when cuts are made, or, how the roster movement goes at the end of training camp and when you have to get it down to 53. I think this year, isn't it a quicker cut process, too? We'll have to look into that. Maybe next hour Lee can talk about it, but I think you have to cut down your roster faster this year. If it's not this, then it's next season. But I know that they're crowded at receiver. I would have liked to have seen the Bucs bring in Anquan Bolden for a tryout because
you're really bothered by this. I know.
Well, I am, because if you have 21.5, you're not signing him to a 2-year deal. That 21.5, you can use 3 of it, 2 of it, because he's playing for close to vet minimum. Just for a tryout. What the hell does that matter?
Which for him would be probably more than $2 million.
He didn't play for much. I think he played for 3 and change last year in Detroit.
So it'd be around 3.5, 4.
You got the 21.5. I'm not signing him to a 4-year deal. I'm signing him to a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
Why not?
I would do it. Yeah, it's worth a flyer, certainly. The idea of successfully timing a spending spree is not far-fetched anymore. After the 2015 season, the Raiders had some of the most money to spend in all of the league, and they had to spend to reach the 89% salary cap floor after years of kind of slowly building around Derek Carr. They signed 4 stars to rich deals last year, then made their playoff appearance, the first one in more than a decade. So they waited, they realized they had the guy, and they said, okay, let's make this happen. One of the main reasons so many teams have reached a position to build fluffy cushions, if you will, is how much the cap has gone up. This season alone, it rose from $12 million. It rose $12 million. That's the number you were looking for.
Okay.
The $167 million cap is $47 million higher. By the way, this is the bigger portion of this. The $167 is $47 million more than it was in 2012.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's ahead of inflation.
Yeah, so this is, where we're at now, these teams have a lot of money to spend, and you're going to see a flurry of signings probably by 2 or 3 teams next year, maybe 3 or 4, if they feel like they've got their guy. But the league so much is built around quarterbacks now. If you don't have it, then you don't want to pull the trigger on that free agent tight end or defensive end or, because you're going to have him for 2 or 3 years, but you're still building because you got a new quarterback each of those years that you're trying to figure out if they're the guy.
Yeah, the Tyrod Taylors of the world, they can take you maybe to a wild card berth.
Yeah, but you're not winning the Super Bowl with Tyrod Taylor.
Correct.
And that's the thing about, that's the baseball GM analogy that we did, which is we might be good enough to be a wild card team. We might win 88 games and get into the playoffs, and we're maybe way ahead of schedule, but we're not beating the Dodgers. So what do I tell my fan base? Hey, I know you think we're a playoff team and you've won 100 games and it makes you feel good that we're in contention, but I don't think we're for real. So I got to go with half measures. And if you're a Bills fan and Tyrod Taylor plays well one week, poor the next week, and that's pretty much who he's going to be, you're living a lie. You're not winning a damn thing. You might get to the playoffs in a particular year, but you might also want to go ahead and start over.
Yeah, you just shorted yourself 12 to 15 spots in the NFL draft. Yeah.
Yeah, you might just want to say screw it and roll E.J. Manuel out there and lose 15 games. Final hour forthcoming. Stay with.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You put your mower through a lot. All that back and forth can add up to thousands of miles. That's like mowing cross country. Gravely commercial mowers are built for all-day performance, helping you get the job done mile after mile. Gravely, built to mow the distance.
Get your Gravely motor only at TNT Supercenter, your one-stop shop for work or play. 14585 Highway 19 South, Thomasville, Georgia. TNTSupercenter.com.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough like a soldier on the front line. truck, always enough. I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
I'm talking tough.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Where we meet with you and advise you on which trees are healthy, diseased, dead, or ones that may need trimming or even removal.
Mills Tree Service, we go out on land for you.
Give us a call at 894-TREE.
Broadcasting live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios. This is 97.9 ESPN Radio, WTSM, Woodville, Thomasville, Tallahassee.
ESPN Radio Sports Center.
I'm Doug Brown. He missed the first 2 months of the season with a left elbow injury. Now Red Sox lefty David Price will go back to the DL with inflammation on that elbow. He was scheduled to start tonight against the Royals. Rick Porcello will take the mound instead. 2 weeks ago, coming out of the All-Star break, the Brewers had a 5.5-game lead over the Cubs in the National League Central. Since the break, Milwaukee is 4-9, and now the Cubs lead by 1.5 games. The teams open a 3-game series tonight at Miller Park. ESPN's Outside the Lines is reporting the NFL appears ready to end its working relationship with the National Institutes of Health. Almost 5 years ago, the league announced a $30 million donation for brain research. Since then, though, the NFL backed out of ongoing CTE research. Of the $30 million pledged, $16 million is unused. At an AAU summer tournament in Las Vegas today, Coach LeVar Ball was ejected after getting 2 technicals. Tournament officials decided to stop the game with Ball's team trailing by 10 points.
Gentlemen, JCPenney is celebrating Black Friday in July. This Friday and Saturday, save with amazing spotlight deals at Black Friday prices. Like up to 60% off brands like Stafford, J4R, Foundry, and more, including big and tall sizes. That's getting your pennies worth. JCPenney.
Live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios in the capital city of Tallahassee, this is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio. It's Libations Friday, brought to you by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill on Appalachia Parkway. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
Final hour of the Jeff Cameron Show, at least for this week. Yeah. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for tuning to it on a fine Libations Friday, loosey-goosey edition of the program. Thanks so much for tuning to it. I'm Jeff, that's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. You know what I want right now? Wings. Oh, I'm feeling some wings.
What
Friday? I don't know.
The fish blend from the Corner Pocket?
Which is delicious, but no. You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking some sort of teriyaki heat.
Okay.
Crispy.
Yeah. They can do that at the CP.
Yeah, it's good. I'm going to get some today. Wings, that is.
I just saw on your mentions, because I check and make sure that people aren't flipping out on Twitter at you during breaks and during segments and such.
I wouldn't know, actually. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
I check that just for context, see how people
respond to any number of things.
We'll see if they take things out of context themselves, for example.
They've been known to do so.
So in case there's a message that needs clarifying, you clarify. But apparently during headlines, you just decided to pee on the face of boneless wings. You don't like boneless wings?
No, boneless wings. Not when compared on the regular to regular wings.
All drums, though, for you.
I'm an all drums guy. Some people like the wingettes or whatever. I get it. I like both, but I'm an all drums guy, just a little bit more efficient to me. Here's the thing. You sometimes get boneless wings occasionally.
Yeah.
And I don't mind them, but to me they're kind of a side treat. They're not what you do on a regular basis because there's just too much fried breading around them and not enough chicken. See what I'm saying?
Well, yeah.
You get more chicken off of a wing than you do off the boneless wings.
I don't know. And
You do, buddy.
no, okay, give them a shot at the CP. This is not the paid part of it, man. Like give it a shot. They have a lot of chicken in them. They're not like a chicken finger. So that's why I'm surprised to hear you say that.
I
because
like
you get,
chicken fingers.
You get chicken fingers.
But they're huge, chicken fingers are. They're delicious and huge. And also, no, I like their wings. Tom, boneless wings,
Okay.
too much fried nonsense.
That's why we live in this beautiful country.
That's right, Tom. That's also the thing about the great game of golf.
That's right.
Everybody can. Inside joke for those people that have no idea. That's good. Online, ESPNTallahassee.com, where you're going to listen live via the streaming free always.
You could be a finesse player from Europe, and you could still make the cut, and they have to let you in the United States Open because that's the thing about the great game of golf. Everybody gets to play it.
Email the show if you want, jcs at 979espnradio.com. On Twitter, it's at jcameron.show. WTSM app for your mobile devices. We post the show upon the conclusion of the program every evening, all 3 hours, both on iTunes and in our own audio vault, and we do so with limited commercial interruption thanks to our great podcast sponsor, Southland Commercial. Fine folks at SVN, Carlton Dean. A lot of resources, a lot of know-how, a lot of opportunities to make money in commercial real estate. Go to carltondean.com.
Well, I'll tell you, that old Thobel and Sergio, they like to complain a little bit, don't they? They can never just be defeated.
That's good stuff. And on YouTube, it's ESPN Tallahassee, right? There you go. Go there, watch. Thanks for doing so. We appreciate it. I know this. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are starting camp this hour. Lee DeKemper is going to join us, and we'll talk about Hard Knocks. We'll talk about the budding relationship between Jameis Winston and his receiving core, newfound propped up receiving core, which is really cool to see. I mean, Deshaun Jackson, if his head's in the right place, could be a huge difference maker for a team that had nobody to lift the lid on a defense.
The interesting thing is, okay, you just get this brand new weapon that's going to add another dimension to the defense, and that is obviously, yes, with the deep ball. But I was reading Joe Buck's fan the other day, and they were talking about how if you talk to anybody around the team or you just watched a little bit of some of the OTAs, which, again, you know, veterans might not have the same motivation as rookies, but anybody who is anybody would talk about Godwin, the rookie, being, you know, probably a little bit better than Jackson is.
So because he can fly, he is young. That's it's fun.
We'll see. I mean, they could be getting to camp, and then Jackson starts to care, and then he is who he is and why he was signed. But I find that interesting. Maybe Lee could shed some light on that.
Well, and Deshaun said about the offseason, quote, "We put in an awful lot of hard work. We're ready to move forward. This is now where it counts." He's excited. I do think that's genuine. He's got a kid that can get him the ball down the football field. That's what he does, right? He's a deep ball threat. That's what he's made his bread and butter on. And, you know, primarily you got to have a guy that can certainly stretch the field, and Jameis can. Jameis has also needed a guy that could go get it. Evans, you got to throw it a little. I mean, listen, in terms of skying to get a football, he's great. Catching it at the high point, high pointing the football, doing those things, he's great. But if a ball is slightly overthrown to Evans, and I'm talking about not skyward, I'm talking about vertically, right? He's not going to get that. Deshaun Jackson has that extra gear where he'll go get a football now. I mean, it may not be the perfect throw, but he'll hunt it down. And they needed somebody like that because Jameis has been at times errant on the far side, right? That's his problem. He tends to go too long.
Yeah, and that's also a point of debate down in Tampa in retrospect. But if you watch the games, you know, and you can see that if there's one throw he needs to work on, Jameis that is, it's the deep ball. Because there are times that there are receivers underneath it that you've never heard of, but they're open. And it's just not there. But if it can be there with any level of consistency, then all of a sudden that opens up running lanes. And we talked about this heading into year 2 after we watched Jameis full 16 games, saw what he is, and what he can be. And we were wondering if at some point, you know, Tampa Bay might be a destination for receivers and skill players because they want to come play with a quarterback who can play. And Deshaun Jackson is one of those. Certainly he's the one that's signed. But there are other receivers. Anquan Bolden had said in the offseason that he wanted to play somewhere in Florida, and Tampa had caught his eye. And then Adrian Peterson had said, you know, on the short list of the 2 teams that he wanted to go to, I think it was the Giants and the Bucks are the two that he said. Well, why would he mention the Bucks? Because, I mean, the whispers have to be getting around the league. I didn't want Adrian, but the point being is that veterans who know enough to know are deciding that, okay, maybe Tampa Bay is a place to consider, and it has not been for a long time.
If you're a running back, and this is the big part of what Jameis does exceptionally well, better than almost anybody in the league, and that's bold praise for a kid who's only played 2 years, but he came into the league with this sort of gift, and that is checking at the line of scrimmage, understanding what you're looking at, and checking the right plays, and that includes the running game almost more than it does the passing game with him. He is so adept at that and always has been, and I think is largely responsible for the success of the muscle hamster.
Right, and to footnote that really quickly, you could throw gobs of money at a player, and they'll come play for you because they want the money. But there isn't that extra element in their quotable. Right. When they say, well, I'm excited to be here, Tampa Bay, great fans. Then they say, you got a great young quarterback who is a leader. You know what I mean?
No, they all know it. Yeah. If you're a receiver, go play for Aaron Rodgers. Bet you put up big numbers. If you're a receiver, even if you're average, go play for Tom Brady. Bet he finds you.
Yeah, you'll take a bit of a pay cut for a year or two to go play with that guy. There's no doubt.
Because your stock goes through the roof for the next contract that you have to sign. The numbers are going to be there. Speaking of numbers, I don't know if you guys saw it, but he does such great work. I always like to draw your attention to it, and it's been a couple days. I hadn't had the opportunity in the last couple of shows to mention it. But Bill Connolly, of course, who does so much good stuff for SB Nation and the college football previews, he got to Florida State. And that headline read as follows: 2017 Florida State is nearly a sure thing, but that schedule is awful tricky. So he talked about the Noles being loaded, but so is the schedule. Each year, the top of the preseason polls contains teams we think we really like, and a couple we just know will be good. Last year, for instance, there were plenty of teams that were a couple of ifs away: Oklahoma, LSU, Florida State, Michigan, Ohio State, Washington, and basically two sure things we knew about, Alabama and Clemson. This year, there are either 2 or 3 sure things. I haven't quite decided. We're pretty sure teams like Washington, Southern Cal, Penn State, Clemson, Oklahoma, maybe even Auburn, Michigan, or LSU will be very good. We know Alabama and Ohio State are good. Where does that leave Florida State? The sure thing case goes for the Noles. Only 3 teams ranked in both the off S&P Plus and defensive S&P Plus, that would be offensive and defensive S&P Plus, top 10 last year. The 2 title game participants, sure things, Bama and Clemson, and Jimbo Fisher's Noles. In terms of single-game percentile performances, only 4 teams were at 90% or above at least 7 times last year, and below 70% no more than once. Those teams, Alabama, Clemson, Michigan, and Florida State. Steadiness tends to carry over when you bring back a more experienced team the next year, and FSU does. In terms of S&P Plus projections, only 4 teams project in the top 10 in each of the 3 primary factors: recruiting impact, returning production, and recent history. Those teams, Alabama, Ohio State, Florida State, and LSU. I think LSU might surprise some of you out there.
Yeah.
The Noles laid a significant egg in 2016 early, 63-20 loss at Louisville. October 1st, their defense reeling a bit from the loss of star safety Derwin James got ripped up in the last second 37-35 loss to North Carolina. The next week, they fell behind Miami 13-0 at Hard Rock Stadium, rallied to win. And from that point forward, though, the Noles basically played like a national title contender. He goes on to document the Orange Bowl victory over Michigan. He talked about their single-game percentile performances over the last 8 games, which read as follows: 86, 90, 89, 96, 96, 98, 97. Talks about how good they were there, holding on to beat a good NC State team in Raleigh. He believes they have a chance to go on and become great this year. Read the rest of the profile. It's long. Talks about players that Florida State lost, including Travis Rudolph, Bobo Wilson, Kermit Whitfield, obviously Dalvin Cook being the big one, DeMarcus Walker on defense, and then a sort of mystery at cornerback is what they talked about, being loaded at safety and going through the list of players that they think have a chance to be very, very good. Obviously, McFadden's name comes up there and talks about the defensive line with Noddy and DeMarcus Christmas. And then goes on to get into the fact that the schedule is really brutal, and that if you were just going by the percentages, and of course these games have to be played on the field, it's not on paper, but he says that just going by the percentages, you would say the first 5 games, Florida State's 3-2. The next 4 games and the last 8 games, you would finish up the year at 7-1 or 8-0. It's really close. It's iffy there. So, yeah.
So he's putting the over-under win total at 9.5.
9.5, yeah. Basically, I would say.
It is a brutal schedule. You know, we do W's and L's, and you just, again, I say, if we were playing up in Raleigh for that NC State game, I don't know. It's just you're asking your kids a lot to get up for a huge game against Alabama, come back, get right, get up for a huge game against Miami, and then do it again against a team that's been waiting for you, that's looking to make their landmark on the 2017 season the way that Louisville did the 2016 season. I'm just glad it's here. I'm really glad it's here, and I hope it's a night kick. You know, I know the networks might say, well, we did 8 p.m. Florida State week 1. We did 8 p.m. Florida State for Miami. I don't care if it's a 7 p.m. on ESPN2. Get us to a night game so the players do have a little bit more energy in the stands.
Oh, it's a lot of fun, a game like that.
Yeah.
He does go, you know what's funny is it's daunting when you go through the read and you look at all the statistics and the advanced metrics, just another measure of by which you can use to judge a team. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to play out in that form, but I like anything that aids your ability to take a greater look and a more in-depth look at a football team, and that's why I like advanced metrics. You just have to understand what they are. But also, I think it's important to note that as you go through the daunting aspects of this schedule, and he's right to point it out. He's right to say, look, that's a real good football team. You may want to lower your expectations about what's possible because of the kinds of games you have to play, especially on the front end of that schedule. That said, he goes through and talks an awful lot about the emergence of guys that he thinks will have big years, like Murray, like Tate, and mentions Keith Gavin. But he also goes on to say this, Tom, and I think this is the big X factor here. There is little doubt that Cam Akers is going to be a superstar. It's a matter of when. How quickly does Cam Akers, and we always give the caveat, barring injury, how quickly is Cam Akers a star? To me, that all depends on how quickly he learns to pass block. If he is good in pass pro, the rest of it takes care of itself because, as Jimbo Fisher himself said, either you know how to run the ball or you don't. I can't teach you that. We don't recruit guys who are going to have to show how to run the ball. We recruit guys who've already shown, overwhelmingly so, they get it. They have a feel for it. They've got vision. They've got patience. They've got power. They've got speed. Most of the time, there's a level of what for to those guys that we bring in as well. Cam Akers has all of those things in the brief snippet we've already seen from him. It's does he have what it takes to stay on the field in pass pro? Then he becomes a complete back. Then Jimbo Fisher trusts him. Then he assumes a starting role. If he doesn't, then he's sharing a lot of carries, obviously, with Rasul and Green and Jarquez and all those guys. So, yeah.
Well, Jarquez is more than able. You know, it's just that do you have a superstar versus a good player? And, you know,
he averaged 5.7 yards per carry as a backup. And it drives me nuts that he is deemed in some way by Jimbo Fisher, I don't know, as not enough, as you know, I don't know what it is, insufficient. He's not a home run hitter, and that is true. He ain't going 80 yards. Dalvin could. We think Cam can. I know Amir Rasul can. Does that continue to hurt this guy? But he's a junior. 5.7 yards per carry as a backup. He was really good.
Yeah, and it's not like Bo Scarborough is going to run away from people, but Alabama finds a way to use that type of back and use them to their advantage. So, sure, it can work. You know, there's one thing I'm going to say here that you would say, well, duh, of course. But with Cam Akers, there's a few things I think that need to happen in order for him to be a superstar in his freshman year. One, you're absolutely right, pass pro. Jimbo won't put you out there, plain and simple.
Won't.
He's not going to put you out there if you don't understand.
Especially for a quarterback who already got his ass beat last year.
Right. Unless you're already a superstar. Maybe I should make that caveat because Dalvin was, a little mixed bag at pass pro. Number two, the O-line has to be good, and that's where you'd say, well, duh, of course it has to be good. But I think that Dalvin could make more people miss instinctively in the backfield.
He's a special player.
You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
But if you can get him to the line of scrimmage with a head of steam, then Cam Akers can do special things day one. Number 3 is the cutback lane. Does he have the patience and the vision?
I think so.
To read when to cut back and when to set up blocks like Dalvin did. If he does, if those 3 things happen, he could go for 1,000, 1,200 yards this year. I don't think that's a stretch.
Well, much the way we had to be very careful and temper some of our enthusiasm around what we thought was possible with quarterback play post Jameis Winston, we're going to have to do something similar with Cam Akers or anybody else for that matter, because Dalvin Cook comes around every once in a great, great while. The previous back who looked as good and was as talented as him was Warwick Dunn, who played a long time ago. So these guys don't come around all that often. By the way, when you look at opportunity rate, and again, you're talking about guys, not all carries are created equal. Obviously, if by the time you touch the ball, somebody's hitting you, you may have gotten that carry, but you had no opportunity to make a play. And that's one of the beauties of advanced metrics. They look at plays like that, and they factor in what you do with the opportunities you're given. Did you have a chance to make a play here and you slipped? Did you have a chance to make a play here, break a tackle, and you didn't, or make somebody miss and you didn't? Well, Dalvin Cook did that better than anybody else. And, in fact, the numbers bear that out. I brought up Jacques Patrick, 5.7 yards per carry, backing up Dalvin Cook. But the opportunity rate, when you look at the yards could be gained, the explosiveness, highlight yards per opportunity, Dalvin Cook, 6.9 is exceptional. Jacques Patrick, 5.7. Well, all that tells you is that he's not Dalvin Cook. But who the hell is? And that 5.7 number is a good one.
Okay, maybe that's a better way of putting it. The offensive line doesn't have to be great for Cam Akers, but they have to give him a fair chance. They have to give him an opportunity. You got to give him a chance to get to the line of scrimmage. From there,
Lord knows nobody did it better than Dalvin once he got there.
That's what I'm saying,
11
man.
point whatever yards per carry once he got to the line of scrimmage.
You brought it up either earlier this week or late last week, and it's something we've talked about time and again about hidden yards. And Devonta Freeman was great at squeezing out 2 or 3 hidden yards by falling forward, getting small, and finding a gap between the legs of an offensive lineman or a defensive player. And all of a sudden, you're dealing with 3rd and 4 instead of 3rd and 6, and that's a huge damn deal.
Big damn deal.
Well, what Dalvin was great at was, okay, it should be 2nd and 13 because somebody came unblocked in the backfield. And then Dalvin could somehow turn that into 2nd and 7 or 2nd and 8. I don't think Cam is ready to do that. I don't know that he's constructed to be that type of player that consistently. Maybe ever, but certainly not this year. But if you can get him to the line of scrimmage, man, watch out. That dude can take punishment. He can deliver it right back, and he's already got the top-end speed of an elite player.
We haven't had a Nick O'Leary-like presence in the offense in a little while, a couple seasons now. But I do believe Izzo's ready to take that next step. And if you look at the combination of Ryan Izzo and Maven Saunders a year ago, it was 45 targets, amassing 29 catches, over 400 yards. I think that number goes way up. I really do, because I think in part Ryan Izzo is now a much more polished player, and if you're trying to be efficient, I mean, tight end's a quarterback's best friend. He catches the football, he gets open, he understands the offense. He's more of a complete tight end. But I think the big element here is that Maven Saunders is likely to take a big step forward. And that kind of gets underrated when we talk about elements of this offense that could see them improve vastly and be more consistent. Too often, I think we're all inclined to look at that receiving core because you did lose 3 reliable receivers. Not dynamic, but very reliable receivers. You knew you could count on those guys for the most part. But Maven Saunders is a guy whose athleticism for his size and build is really rarely seen, and he's a tough cover. He's a matchup problem if he gets it. He's not shown the toughness that you need to have to stay on the field consistently. But I think he had to have learned something over these last couple of seasons. I believe he will take a big step forward. And if he does, I think you end up seeing the targets and the catches and the yardage go well over 500 to 600 yards. I think you see the catches move up to with the combination into the 40 range, maybe even 50. And then all of a sudden, obviously, the targets last year, 45 targets. I think that goes up 65, 70. I think you're going to see that.
Well, okay, for Maven, the interesting thing is if he's not ready, to me, if he's not ready to be a tight end, then he's never going to be a tight end. But he's worked so often in the last few years. You hear little reports out of the beat that he's working with the wide receivers in catching drills. Maybe he could be some sort of insurance policy or package player where he comes in and he plays receiver. You know what I mean? Like at some point, if you're not going to be able to run double tights with him, and he doesn't understand the nuance
Fisher
of the
wants
position
that
yet
badly, though. I think he's going to push it. I think he's going to continue to push it.
Well, we talk about not having depth and options at receiver. That's all I'm saying. Is if at the end of camp they say, well, I don't know that I can trust him. I don't know that I can trust him yet, and maybe not for Alabama. Well, at least he gives you depth in that regard because he is a matchup nightmare wherever you line him up. And there were times, I mean, to be sure, when Nick O'Leary was on the field and he wasn't lined up next to a tackle. He was in the slot. He was used as a traditional receiver.
Right.
So maybe that's in the cards for Maven if it isn't about lining up on the line of scrimmage and playing like a Ryan Izzo does.
All it does is get me all the more excited about what's going to take place as we start next week. Our opportunity to sit down before Jimbo Fisher for the start of the season press conference, which kicks everything off. And then on a daily basis, it's Florida State news to go coupled with the NFL, preseason action, all that good stuff. Speaking of the NFL, we get the opportunity next to talk to Lita Kemper, JoeBucksFan.com. First time we bring him in on the year. It's good news. The Bucks camp has begun, and he has everything on the website. We'll talk to him next. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You put your mower through a lot. All that back and forth can add up to thousands of miles. That's like mowing cross country. Gravely commercial mowers are built for all-day performance, helping you get the job done mile after mile. Gravely, built to mow the distance.
Get your Gravely motor only at TNT Supercenter, your one-stop shop for work or play. 14585 Highway 19 South, Thomasville, Georgia. TNTSupercenter.com.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck. Always enough. I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
I'm talking tough.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Pleasantly surprised at how much energy and money you can save. Going away from home on vacation? Why not purchase a programmable thermostat to regulate your air conditioner while you're not at home? Talk about an investment that'll pay energy savings dividends. Make an appointment right away for a free energy audit from the City of Tallahassee Utilities. You never know how much energy you can save until you do it. The City of Tallahassee is offering insulation grants. Why not apply for one? Did you know that the City of Tallahassee offers loans to help with the purchase of solar water heaters? Visit talgov.com/YOU for information on loans and rebates. So stay cool, go green, and save energy all summer long. A message from the City of Tallahassee Utilities, America's #1 public utility.
Don't just listen to The Jeff Cameron Show. Watch it live. The Jeff Cameron Show Streamcast. Live weekdays 3 to 6 p.m. Head to ESPNTallahassee.com today to watch live or catch up on demand. The Jeff Cameron Show Streamcast. Brought to you by Nice Tire and Auto, your trusted Goodyear dealer. 574-4100. And presented by TNT Supercenter in Thomasville, Georgia. And Franklin Spring Creek Ford. This is the Jeff Cameron Show. Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Yes. Oh, indeed. Van Halen means JoeBucksFan.com. Our friend Lita Kemper. And the start of the NFL season, camps anyhow, and soon preseason, and soon Hard Knocks. And that means it's time to talk about some Tampa Bay Buccaneers football. Let's welcome him back. Lee DeKemper, JoeBucksFan.com, the website. Hello, Lee. How the hell are you, buddy?
Hey, Jeff. I think I'm like you. We're ready for football. It was a great summer, but you know what? Football is football. And by the way, I always appreciate and thank you for the Van Halen bumper music, the intro. I love that. And I'm reading this book about Van Halen that just came out a couple months ago by their former tour manager.
Is it good?
I don't know if you heard about this or read this, but the example of David Lee Roth got so out of control drunk one night, they actually had to put him in a straitjacket. It's hysterical.
I'll find the passage at the very least, and I love finding out dirt on famed hair metal bands, so I'm in.
Oh, man, it was just hilarious. Yeah. So, so here I am at One Buck Palace. Training camp was done today, and it's all about Jameis. It's his team, man.
Well, it's been a fun little journey here. Going back, we can look big picture on a day like this. So let's go ahead and go down that road together. It's we were fortunate enough to cover here at Florida State and be wowed by his charisma and his obvious acumen for the game to go along with the physical attributes. But one of the things that a lot of people didn't get to know about Jameis when he was here because of the controversies and some of the runaway stories and lies of omission and any number of other things that were done in the press was that he was a great team guy who players loved in the locker room and was a tireless leader on and off the field. And I know that at the very least we can say through these first 2 years, in addition to back-to-back 4,000-yard seasons, that Jameis has firmly established himself now as kind of a pillar of the community and a guy that embraces Tampa Bay. And I think, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, his teammates and coaches really love him there at One Buck Place.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll just give you a couple examples, one of which was today. After practice, I was talking to Deshaun Jackson, obviously major addition to the team in free agency, wide receiver. And I was just talking to Deshaun Jackson, and I said, hey, O.J. Howard yesterday was just raving about Jameis as leader, and he gave some examples. And I can get to that in a moment. And Deshaun Jackson looked at me and goes, this guy may be young. He's a leader. And it reminded me of what Gerald McCoy said last year about Jameis. He said he's young, but he has an old soul. Meaning he's wiser than his years. He's more mature than his years. And for example, yesterday, O.J. Howard, first-round draft pick, tight end out of Alabama, he's had some great examples by why Jameis is a leader. He's always getting guys together to throw footballs. Gets everybody together. There's a local park in Tampa they work out. And he was saying Jameis would go up to him. He won't say much. This is O.J. Howard. He says, Jameis doesn't say much, but he says, let's be great today. Or, you can do better. Or, I'm expecting you to do this. And he said, for whatever reason, he is a magnetic personality because of that. They see where his work ethic is off the chart, completely off the chart. And so his receivers, his teammates, they see that and they're like, whoa, this guy gets to work no later than 5:30 in the morning. I better step up my game, et cetera. And it just like a snowball effect. And he's got guys like, again, Deshaun Jackson, a grizzled veteran that he is, and he's got Deshaun Jackson eating out of his hand. And this is the guy that's not even just turned, not even 24 yet. He was 23 and a half. And I mean, it's just an amazing. Some people have it. You know what it is. You can't define it, but when you see it, you understand it. And Jameis has it.
Always has. And another thing that he possesses that I think really helps elevate that to another level is a passion for greatness and a passion for football. He wants to be great. He's striving to be great. He wants to be known as one of the best of all time, but he loves football. And I just think that's important. A lot of guys certainly have a talent for a game, any sport, you name it, but they don't necessarily love it, and they're there for the paycheck. They'll work hard because they know they have to and to be professional, but they don't have an undying love and passion for the game. And when one has that, I think you can see it, he exudes it, and then you're drawn to it. It reminds you, it's almost childlike enthusiasm in a game where business oftentimes takes over. So I think he has that childlike enthusiasm that reminds guys why they started to play the game to begin with.
He does have a very childlike attitude when it comes to football. It's like, man, I'm getting paid big money to do what I would probably be doing if I was 10 years old. He loves it. And Jason Light told me something, the Buccaneers general manager, a couple of years ago. It wasn't so much about Jameis, although the subject was about Jameis, but it kind of deviated a little bit. You always hear talent evaluators and coaches. They're looking for somebody who loves the game. You hear that so much, it's almost cliche. It's almost, to quote Jack Ham, it's almost rhetoric. It's almost empty words. But Jason Light told me, if you can find a guy like Jameis who loves the game, they're generally going to get as much, if not more, out of their talent than someone, as you stated earlier, Jeff, that they know they have to work at it. They're a professional. It's their craft, but they don't necessarily love it. And Jason Light was telling me the guys who absolutely love football, have an addiction to it, have a passion for it, they will more than likely max out their talents. And that was just that's his experience. They'll max out their talents. They may get more out of themselves than what their coaches and teammates may think of them because of that drive, because of that passion, that love of the game. And that's where Jameis comes in. And I thought it was just interesting words what Jason Light said. It wasn't so much about Jameis, but it was about Jameis.
We're talking to Lita Kemper, JoeBucksFan.com, the website. Camp is underway in Tampa. He's there. And let's go big picture. Let's be honest, a lot of Buccaneers fans will listen to this. They'll either go back and listen to the stream or they'll listen to it when you post it. And they're fans of this team. They're excited about this team. And for the first time in a long time, I think that's true across the board, even of the most skeptical of fans, that they believe this Bucs team, which certainly has been upwardly mobile since the drafting of Jameis Winston, is on the verge of really good things. And part of that is the aforementioned players you just noted in O.J. Howard and also a veteran like Deshaun Jackson coming in at wide receiver who can lift the lid off a defense with his speed. I guess let's go big picture there and talk about some of the new guys. Let's talk about O.J. Howard. It's early, and as you note, they're just playing underwear football right now. But Tom and I, when we go over to Florida State's first practices and we see the freshmen arrive on campus, we'll sometimes talk about a guy who looks the part, Lee, where you can just see a guy come in. Maybe he's got the body type for it. He's physically mature. Maybe it's an attitude. Maybe it's a work ethic. Maybe it's the way he soaks in the playbook pretty quickly. And you'll note early in their career that guy's going to be special. Does O.J. Howard look the part to you?
On and off the field. And I'll give you an example. Just this morning on JoeBucksFan.com, I read a comment from one of our readers, and I never thought of this before. But this reader said, typing about O.J. Howard, he said, this guy is the complete polar opposite of ASJ. And I never thought of it before, and that's a perfect example. ASJ, Austin Swearingen-Jenkins, I refer to him now as AS Jackwagon. I mean, just a complete buffoon. He's, $1 million body, 10-cent head. And O.J. Howard, he's got some kind of aura about him, not unlike Jameis. Maybe not so much as, Jameis has that magnetic personality. O.J. Howard sort of has something like that. He looks the part. He seems to fit the part on the field. He's very eloquent. He's one of these guys you could tell he's very comfortable in his own skin. He has kind of that dynamic that, this guy's a tight end. This guy's an NFL player. He's confident. He's intelligent. He's eloquent. He goes on the field. You can see the talent. There's no question about that. So that guy, I think now, a lot of times rookie tight ends don't flash. I understand that. And the Bucs, if you put a gun to people's heads here at One Buck Palace, they drafted O.J. Howard for his blocking as much as his pass catching ability, which is supreme. They love his blocking, and if you talk to NFL pro personnel people, they will tell you that that's a rare find these days in both college and NFL. A guy that can block well as catch the ball, for tight ends, that is. And O.J. Howard's that rare bird. He's the reason to get Bucs fans excited. There was a play, by the way, the hype is real. There's huge hype around Tampa Bay. Hasn't been like this for years, maybe since Chucky was coaching. And, it's Friday morning, 8:30 a.m. practice, a work day. The bleachers at One Buck for training camp, full, packed. And I've never seen that before on the first day. I've seen it crowded before.
Right.
I've never seen it packed on a weekday morning, 8:30 in the morning, packed. And it was. Now, talking about Deshaun Jackson, I'll whet the appetite of some Bucs fans. Today, I saw as close to the perfect pass play as I've ever seen. It was Deshaun Jackson and Jameis. It was like a simple, a slant in from the left side from Deshaun Jackson. Jameis put that thing right on the money as Bill Walsh would want it. At the numbers, 6 inches ahead of the body. Perfect stride, perfect pass. Deshaun Jackson caught that sucker, turned upfield, and the guns were on. Boom, he was gone. And I hope Buccaneers.com puts that video up on their website. Any Bucs fan that sees that video, they're going to be pounding beers for the next 5 hours. They're going to be so freaking excited. It was as close to the perfect pass play as I've ever seen in training. Again, it's underwear football. Receivers aren't jammed. There's no hitting. But Dirk Cutter could not have drawn that pass play up any better on a whiteboard. That again, was as close to perfection as I've ever seen. And anybody that saw that play, any of the fans, the 2,500 fans that were here, that's why they got Deshaun Jackson right there.
Well, we got about 3 minutes left. I want to ask you really quick to at least touch on this. First of all, it's kind of just a stream of consciousness here for me. Sure. Ali Marpet at center, question mark. Sweezy actually healthy, question mark. We're going to have him. The additions of Chris Baker on the defensive line to go along with Ayers and Spence and McCoy and McDonald and all of that. How does the DL shape up? And then I guess from there, that's a lot to answer in 3 minutes. Go rapid fire there. I started with Marpet at center, question mark.
Sure. Marpet, obviously a question mark because he's never played center before. And even Dirk Cutter said there's going to be learning curves. But when the Bucs drafted him, Jason Light, I'll never forget the press conference. Jason Light stood at the podium and said, we project this guy as a center. So it was just a matter of time that he was moving center. Okay. Question mark, yes. But they have a lot of faith in him. They have the confidence. J.R. Squeezy, another huge question mark. The reason why I say that is my business partner, Steve Bizovitz, and I at JoeBucksFan.com, we've done the research. We cannot find any offensive lineman who missed an entire year. When I say an entire year, I'm talking OTAs through the end of regular season, never put on a chin step. We cannot find an example of an offensive lineman that had back surgery, missed the entire season, and played a full 16-game schedule the following season. Our research, we can't find that.
Well, hopefully he's the first.
Huge question mark right there. Defensively, same old song for the last since Simeon Rice left. They can't find an edge rusher. Will they find one? Will Noah Spence be that guy? Well, he had shoulder surgery. It's still an open book with Noah Spence. I love the guy, love his attitude, love his drive. Got to see some results pretty soon. Chris Baker, real quick. I still he has experience as a defensive end and a 34 front. Now, obviously, he's a defensive tackle. I still say they're going to use some of Chris Baker in a 34 front at times, if for no other reason than to throw the opposing offense off. So I think that's the deal with Chris Baker. Robert Ayers, if he stays healthy, he can get 9 sacks, and they love his attitude. He's sap-like.
Mm-hmm. And I know that's a group that I think most Bucs fans feel pretty good about, save for the question mark about compiling sacks off the edge. That's a pretty talented group, though. When you look against the run, I like this group quite a bit.
Oh, sure. And just by the way, some breaking news today. Jackie Smith was on the PUP list to start training camp. He missed all of last year. He blew out his knee, major knee surgery. Happened in the opening game season or the opening week of the season at Atlanta. He's going to have another procedure today. They're talking weeks for him to come back. They were really banking on him to provide some pressure on the quarterback from the left end. That's up in the air right now.
Real quick, I know it's rare and it doesn't happen all that often, but we're up against it, so I want to ask you. Chris Godwin, speedster, but he is a rookie. Do we suspect Deshaun Jackson's going to be the speed guy here? But a lot of positive momentum for Chris Godwin, listening to people down there talk about him.
Yeah, I mean, in OTAs, he looked better than O.J. Howard, to be honest with you. He fit the part. Now, again, no pads yet. But James Winston said today about Chris Godwin, rookie is a class. That doesn't mean you have to be a rookie, in speaking about Chris Godwin. So there's a lot of promise there. I mean, so far the arrow is pointing up with Chris Godwin. Again, same thing was happening with Kenny Bell until the pads came on and he vanished.
Damn you. I love it. Good honesty right there, as always, from you, sir. We'll be talking frequently and soon. Enjoy OTAs. Enjoy the start of camp, I should say, and enjoy football being back. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, Lee.
Oh, same for Jeff. I love it as well. Have a good one. Thanks again.
All right, brother. Be good. JoeBucksFan.com, the website. All right. There you go. That'll wet your whistle just a little bit. Nice. Good music, too.
Have options on the defensive line?
What are we doing here?
Pass and the run?
Depth.
Okay.
Variety. Beautiful.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You can tell a lot about a tractor by its warranty. That's why Mahindra makes the toughest tractors on earth. With steel, not plastic. Backed by the industry's best limited powertrain warranty, period. Not 5 years, not 6 years, but a full 7 years on select models. No wonder the other guys are green with envy.
No money down, 0% interest, and no payments until July. Available at TNT Supercenter.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck, always enough. I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Mission 1023 North Monroe Street, or call them at 222-2532.
This Day in Sports brought to you by Superlube. Superlube, 19 Tallahassee area locations. Quick, convenient, no appointment necessary.
This day in sports history. July 28, 1999. At age 30 and only 1,457 yards from breaking the all-time rushing record, Barry Sanders of the Detroit Lions retired from the NFL. It was a move that shocked the sport, seeing as he still had 6 years left on his contract. In his 2003 biography, Sanders explained he was unhappy with the Lions' downward spiral over the years.
For better gas mileage and a longer-lasting engine, change your vehicle's oil at Superlube every 3 months or 3,000 miles, whichever comes first. For good times and family fun, Tallahassee heads to the Fun Station. And right now, when you change your oil at Superlube, you'll get a $15 Fun Station gift card. You don't need an appointment. You'll be in and out in no time. And with 19 Tallahassee area Superlubes, there's probably one right around the corner right now.
How I love to Superlube my car, yes sir.
ESPN Radio Sports Center.
I'm Doug Brown. He missed the first 2 months of the season with a left elbow injury. Now Red Sox lefty David Price will go back to the DL with inflammation on that elbow. He was scheduled to start tonight against the Royals. Rick Porcello will take the mound instead. 2 weeks ago, coming out of the All-Star break, the Brewers had a 5.5-game lead over the Cubs in the National League Central. Since the break, Milwaukee is 4-9, and now the Cubs lead by a game and a half. The teams open a 3-game series tonight at Miller Park. ESPN's Outside the Lines is reporting the NFL appears ready to end its working relationship with the National Institutes of Health. Almost 5 years ago, the league announced a $30 million donation for brain research. Since then, though, the NFL backed out of ongoing CTE research. Of the $30 million pledged, $16 million is unused. At an AAU summer tournament in Las Vegas today, Coach LeVar Ball was ejected after getting 2 technicals. Tournament officials decided to stop the game with Ball's team trailing by 10 points.
Gentlemen, JCPenney is celebrating Black Friday in July. This Friday and Saturday, save with amazing spotlight deals at Black Friday prices, like up to 60% off brands like Stafford, J4R, Foundry, and more, including big and tall sizes. That's getting your pennies worth. JCPenney.
Live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios in the capital city of Tallahassee, this is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio. It's Libations Friday, brought to you by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill on Appalachia Parkway. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
Always love the sound of that music, baby, on a Libations Friday. Loosey Goosey edition of the program. Guess we got to do some probables at some point. You know, we're getting close to being able to say this is the last weekend without football. You know how that begins a lot sooner than you realize. First preseason game is when?
Next week? Is
that
right?
Yeah. Is this the time we get to say
Wasn't it Wednesday the 2nd? Something like that? Well, I think you had mentioned it was during the week.
Well, it was something bizarre that it was so early in the year. It was like August the 3rd, wasn't it? It was bizarre. I think you have you got obviously the start of the regular season.
Yeah, it's August
September.
3rd. August 3rd, which we're
so
less than a week away from the Hall of Fame game.
We can say it now. This is the last Friday show that we will do without football on the docket. Let that sit for a second. How beautiful is that? Yeah! Last one, buddy.
Hello, my friend. Hello.
Indeed. Oh, man, that just warms the heart. I thought it might be this. You know, when we came in today, I was thinking, this is the last Friday show we're going to do without some form of football, albeit crappy, being played.
But even you have Fisher's presser next week on Tuesday, I think it is, August the 1st, and that kicks off camp because the players report. And then you have Sunday of next week, which is media day. And if tradition holds, that's the open practice, so we can watch Florida State football practice, okay? And then you get Hard Knocks with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that next week.
Woo! Cowboys Cardinals Thursday, August the 3rd, 8 p.m. So less than a week from now, the first football game will be played. After that, it's less than a week from that game to the next game when it all kicks off, with August the 9th being the Panthers and the Texans. And then there's just on that's a Wednesday. The next day after that, a full slate of games. Falcons, Dolphins, Vikings, Bills, Jags, Patriots, Saints, Browns, Ravens, Broncos, Eagles, Packers, all on Thursday.
Have your fantasy football drafts been set yet?
No, but that's next, right? Those emails start coming in. We're in a league.
I'm all set. It usually happens the Saturday of Labor Day weekend, which is always an annoyance because we're playing typically in a high-profile game.
That's right.
Oklahoma State weekend. Remember,
when's our mutual league?
I don't know.
Yeah,
that one has not been determined.
Got to get to talk.
Is it even happening this year?
I hope so.
I hope so, too.
It was fun.
The Commissioner, if you're listening, please, let's make it
happen,
I know you're
buddy.
a listener.
Yeah.
But I remember when we were out in Arlington, you came over to the house for the pregame. We were tailgating.
That's right.
I was getting done with my draft.
Ohio State nearly lost to Navy.
That's correct.
On that day, yeah.
Alabama did not look great against West Virginia in Atlanta.
Right. And then I was grilling in 105-degree heat.
Thankfully, my commissioner has finally listened to my plea, and our draft is Sunday, the day after Florida State, Alabama, in the early afternoon. Isn't that nice? I got nothing else to worry about.
Well done, yeah. All right, time to do probables now that we are armed with all this wonderful information about our life no longer being devoid of football.
It's time for, how you say, with the pitching probables?
Braves, Phillies, Julio Teheran, Jeremy Hellickson. Rockies, Nats, German Marquez going against Tanner Roark. Rays, Yankees, Austin Pruitt, Masahiro Tanaka going for the Yankees. Angels, Blue Jays, Parker Bridwell, J.A. Happ. You know what makes me happy? Happ, who was pitching extremely well into June, suffered a bump in the road, and it's all gone south for him. 5-1-4 over his last 4 starts in July. 7 home runs given up in those 21 innings. Oh, that's good. I got nothing against Happ. It's just that he was dominant after the Pirates let him go for nothing. And he's out there kicking ass and taking names. Frustrating.
Well, he was good with you. That's why.
Really good with us, yeah. Reds, Marlins, Sal Romano, and Vance Worley. Such a happy tune. Astros, Tigers, Dallas Keuchel goes against Jordan Zimmerman. We got Royals, Red Sox, Jason Vargas, Rick Porcello. Orioles, Rangers, Chris Tillman, Andrew Kashner. Cubs are red hot. They'll throw Jose Quintana. Freaking Quintana, man. Creep can roll.
Yeah, but he's a pervert, dude.
8-year-olds. Brent Suter going for the Brewers. Indians, White Sox, Danny Salazar, Derek Holland. We got D-backs, Cardinals. Care to guess who's pitching for the D-backs?
Robbie Ray.
That would be correct. You're as right as rain, Sir Robbie Ray. Michael Waka goes for the Cards.
Always wanted to do that.
Robbie Ray?
With the inflection and the gusto.
Twins, A's. Jaime Garcia, now a member of the Twins. Current member of Jeff Cameron Show fantasy team. I need you, Jaime. Daniel Gossett goes for the A's. We've got Mets, Mariners, Rafael Montero. Flexen got the loss, Tom. I was so sad.
Had a 3.0 whip after 3 innings pitched. Gave up 4 runs.
That'll hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
Ariel Miranda goes for the Mariners. My Pirates will take on the Padres. Chad Kuhl goes for the Buccos. Travis Wood goes for the Padres. Giants-Dodgers, famed rivalry. One team is a hell of a lot better than the other right now. This might not go well for the Giants. We've got Matt Moore going against Alex Wood, and that is a look at those that shall reside on the bump.
Remember to live and live well. It's all right. Best you can do is forgive.
Timeless lyrics. It's true.
Was that double Wood on the probables there towards the end?
Alex Wood. And did I mention another Wood?
Did you say Travis Wood?
Double Wood.
Double Wood.
How about that? Going twice today. Travis Wood and Alex Wood.
Oh!
Nicely done. Whole lot of wood on the mound today. Great work, Matthew. Great work, Tom. Thanks for listening, everybody. You guys have a wondrous weekend. Enjoy each other's company. Be kind. Relax. Maybe read a book or two. Have some fun. You don't have to read 2 books over one weekend. That'd be arduous. That wouldn't be fun at all.
Enjoy the double Wood tonight.
Double Wood with a little wine. See you Monday.